Alrighty, hello folks, and good morning. Welcome to, well, whatever you call this thing today. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a streaming type of deal today. Basically, just kind of doing like post-game stuff, and specifically going to get the last class that's needed to go do the whole tier list for One Vision. So at this point, it's very, very close to finally being at that endpoint there. And the last one left on the list is actually Ranger. I've gone and made, at the very least, generic versions of all of the other kind of other stuff in general. So yeah, I'm hoping that everything's all good there. Also, in here, is it going to be repeating itself? No, it's not repeating itself. Also, hello there. Hi there, Sam. That you did. So yeah, we're finally doing one of these properly. This is the one that I was meaning to do yesterday, but you know, stuff happens. So yeah, so basically we're just going to be kind of discussing post-game stuff in general, like kind of thoughts about where the mod's at these days, in preparation for another patch that's coming up. So we'll see if there's yet another class that's potentially added in the next class whenever it's coming up. It sounded like it was going to be any day now. So yeah, basically... again, the last class that's left is Ranger. I've gone and tested basically all the other new stuff. I mean, frankly, it's one of those cases where it's honestly hard to even criticize any of the new classes that got added, because holy crap, they're solid at this point. So yeah, we'll be covering some of those. As far as doing the proper tier list and stuff, we'll do those when we do them. Also, originally, I was thinking that I would probably do something along the lines of actually using the proper in-game audio. And, the little adapter thing I'm trying to use for it would probably work a lot better if I had an aux cable to actually plug it into. So, alrighty then. There's just going to be an issue no matter what. So that's fun. Any darn ways. So right now, I'm just kind of doing some random fight that happened to trigger while we were here. If you're wondering about the soundtrack, that's just the Armored Core Nexus soundtrack playing off in the background. As it does, probably should have dealt with this guy's shackling, but oh well, apparently everyone is super shackled at the moment. However, we can potentially preempt through that shackle, so here we go. Oh no, please don't hit us in the back. Oh, well, I guess he decided not to. Anyway, fine. Alright. So, okay, let's see here. So as far as post-game is concerned, I mean, really, this has generally been as smooth as Reborn has been. Like, as far as the actual transition from just regular, new game type of stuff going straight into post-game. I have not felt that classic, PSP hiccup whatsoever. So that's generally been pretty darn nice. But yeah, right now we're already in Coda 2, so hopefully we'll just kind of be going back, picking up Vyce. I don't think we'll be able to do Palace of the Dead in one sitting by any means whatsoever, but either way, we'll get to what we get to. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the new classes that were added, because that's probably the main first thing that generally tends to come up, as far as, like, just, like, what exactly is it, what kind of new stuff was added. So, okay, as far as new classes are concerned, like, I think probably by far, even though it's technically not really a new class, so far of the new-ish classes, I guess you could say, favorite has still been the Angel. Hey, technically it's an Angel, not a Divine Knight anymore, but, like, the sheer sturdiness that class ends up bringing to bear has been just surprisingly nice as an evolution point once you get to Chapter 4. Like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love things like the Headhunter actually took me by surprise. I didn't realize just how many tools that thing has in his belt. Songstress is okay. I feel like, as far as the Songstress is concerned, they've got a lot of ideas. I don't know, I feel like with the Songstress there's, I don't know. They take a couple turns to get going, which feels kind of weird compared with everybody else. I think that's what the kind of main funky thing about them at this second, as far as I notice. I love the buffs that they use. I love the way that they basically work like a FFT bard at this point. But like, I don't know. It's weird that they take a couple turns to get kind of up and going, as it were. There's a pretty decent chance I'm potentially misreading that, though, because she is still currently a little bit behind. And currently I am kind of building her firmly 100% towards mine, so, you know, she's probably going to be really, really devastating when she does get going, but as of so far, she's been exactly okay. Anyway, in the meantime, though, let's go get her back up on her feet. Actually, no, you know what? This dude is going to be acting first. Let's go ahead and get him back up on his feet so that we can get going here. And then we'll be off on the quest for Vyce there, and his Ranger class that I still haven't tried out. It's been available, is the funny thing. I feel like I found class marks at some point and then just totally forgot where they were, and I don't have any kind of in stock right now, so I'm not sure if I'm just completely misremembering that, or maybe it's something else. Honestly, no clue. But I figure at this point, the simplest way is just to go get Vyce, let him serve as his own class. That way we can go forth into proper like Code of 4 and stuff like that. Get all those fights done. Kind of smack all those particular birdies with one stone, as it were. All right, and that should end the fight right there, and then we're good to go. That's that. Is there a way to get OV on the Steam Deck? Yeah, absolutely, man. You just play it on PPS's PP. That's probably arguably one of the most ideal ways to do it. I just personally prefer playing it on the Vita. That's why we're recording this off original hardware. And actually, let's go ahead and get that out of the way right away, because I feel like this comes up all the dang time in the kind of comments after the fact. As far as devices you can play One Vision on, basically everything. Okay? Like, basically, PPS's PP is one of the most convenient emulators out there. It's generally pretty low impact. It can run on any phone type at this point. And PSP emulation in general is in a really good, convenient spot right now, where we have a nice, free emulator. It has a paid version if you just want to support them. I mean, like, it's $5. But no, the free version is exactly the same as the paid version. All it does is change the color of the icon. And basically all you do is you unpack the game into a folder. Every time there's an update, you just throw the update into that folder, and that's it. Like, you're done. It gets updates every few months or so. And whatever new features are added are just sort of in there now. If you wanted to use cheats to change the visuals or whatever else, or change the experience scaling, which is kind of recommended by default, that is available on all versions. Whether you wanted to play this on an old PSP, on a PS Vita, on your phone, on your laptop, on your Steam Deck, on your emulation handheld, it runs fine on all of them. Okay? So, again, the only reason we're doing original hardware is because that's my personal preference. Like, this is my device that just sort of never leaves my pocket, and so it's just nice that it can also do video output. So, all right. So with that said, here, let's go ahead and kind of explain where we're at party-wise at this point. Most of the classes that I've run into, I've gone and used to some degree. Again, remember, the kind of final goal of this whole thing is to try to do an at least somewhat decent job of doing a tier list of all the classes in this one. Now, a couple of notable exceptions that happened over the course of all of this. Most of the dragons worked fairly similarly, and you, generally speaking, can get an idea of what's going on with most of the monster units by going and fighting them. So, while I have gone and played around with the different dragon types at some point, they're all roughly similar, aside from their, breath differences, stuff like that, and the Hydra getting stuff like Berserk instead of Flight, which is just really darn cool. Golems I really liked. Griffins I've regularly, made videos on talking about how much I liked them. But there are going to be some that, for example, got explored a little bit less. Stuff like the Dragonborn is going to get a decent bit of work up over the course of this thing, and I still have to finish going through the Enchanter, but hey, at least they're acquired. So, with that all being said, also, the Lord, like, I know how the Lord works. I use Lord every time. Ranger's really the only one that we haven't really gotten a hold of yet. So, with that being said, tonight we go ahead and get a hold of the Ranger, and then from there we go ahead and proceed on with other things, right? Okay. Let's go ahead and get this saved first of all, and then we'll go ahead and go back in time, as it were. Get that little sucker saved right there, and funnily enough, I actually would have done this a couple of days ago, but I had a dead chicken. Not in real life, thankfully, for once, but in this particular case, it was the cockatrice that was there up top. Asia, I believe was her name, and yeah, they ended up getting completely wiped, unfortunately, right before the video started, and you can't do any time warp shenanigans when you have a dead unit in your party. Okie doke. So with that being said, we now have to go back to law, so let's go ahead and go all the way back to chapter 1, and see if we can get to the Vyce point, as it were, and go on our quest for Vyce here. Kind of see what New Game Plus mode is looking like these days. Alright, so usually the way I like to do this is just kind of throw in all the lobies, have them eat up some experience while we're at here. So we'll go ahead and throw in the Dragonborn. We'll go ahead and throw in the Sacred Fist. Dude, the Sacred Fist is such a fun class. I love it. Funnily enough, really good pair with a Necromancer, of all things. So, like, at some point, I don't know when this happened exactly, but there was just a request for, like, what if what's his face? Why am I forgetting his name right now? The neutral captain that comes with Saria. Elrig. Yeah, so, like, if Captain Elrig could have his own custom class, like, what would that be? Because he's just a random, pirate captain guy, and so apparently Kung Fu movie was the answer. So they got, like, Holy Spirit, which is, like, mind plus avoidance. You got stuff like, where the hell was that? Yeah, okay, so sorry. Magic avoidance plus, but basically what it does is they literally just drink some of the spirits from your inventory, which is just a fun idea. You got stuff like Healing Strike, which is like a really, really, really high scaling healing move, but if it doesn't kill something, it also instantly heals them. So, like, it either kills or heals. It's just a fun idea for a thing. And then magic-wise, we got stuff like, well, Aura Heal is just kind of an area heal type of thing. And then also a Spirit Bomb here, which is, we haven't gotten the level to use this thing yet. This feels like the classic version of just basically all the Holy Nuke type abilities. I don't know. But yeah, no, they made a Drunken Fist class. Exactly. That Elrig's class is a Drunken Fist class. So ignore that this is a ninja girl over here. Again, with many of these were characters I didn't end up recruiting on this particular playthrough, so for the purpose of doing that tier list thing, I just made generic versions. So, yeah. Sacred Fist is OP, D&D Monk. Yeah, no, dude, Sacred Fist is like the one-shot king. It's amazing. Like, you basically go in with Darkstar from a Necromancer or a Caster or whoever else, give them the Dark Averse, give this unit a Strengthen, or, give a Breach or Fear or whatever else. Just basically, you hit them with Dark, it gives them Light Averse. Then you go in with Healing Strike, and that mess just destroys. And bear in mind, at this point, they're like 10 levels under everybody else, which doesn't matter that much. But, like, just the juxtaposition of just like, here's our rookie, they just one-shot your tank is pretty good. They are tricky to use, but it's just a really fun idea for a class. Let's see, Plastered overrides all over debuffs. Yeah, and unfortunately true in a lot of cases. A lot of buffs as well. Alright. Yeah, this dude's over here complaining about our numbers. Let's see what their New Game Plus versions look like. See what kind of fancy crap he loaded him up with. Yeah, this dude is all about his evasion, apparently. Yeah, looking pretty tanky. Let's see, we got a nice evasive Berserker, as you do. I love how One Vision continues keeping the Skirmisher build alive, like, in every little facet of this game. Like, he went through and custom made sure that they always end up making use of their like, Skirmisher builds and stuff. It's just good stuff. Alright, yeah, it looks like these guys are running pretty heavy on evasion, so... Okay, this team, just full disclosure, this team kind of sucks, but, alright. Let's go ahead and go forward here. These are deliberately all of the lobies on the team, so we'll kind of see how they perform, with exception to Denim, who is currently, like, he's pretty nuts. And I guess Cashua here, so I guess, okay, maybe we got a few characters that are pretty darn good. Let's see, one-shot the Super Boss time. Maybe we'll see what happens. We do have Cashua here, so she should be able to set up healing strikes pretty well. Um, they are going to be a little bit behind, but again, by this point, like after you're at about 10 or so, you're usually pretty decently well and good. But let's see. What do I want to do here? I think we'll just go ahead and set up a strengthen, just to get that healing strike going a little bit early, since he can't exactly get into position to take his shots, as it were. Alright, by the way, where are we at with the music? Can you hear the music okay? Is it decent enough? What's the deal there? Because it seems like lately there's been a lot of up and down in that particular department. Alright. Man, as far as one-shotting the super boss, I'd like to see if she potentially could wreck this guy's face a little bit, but I don't know as of yet. There's music? Okay, then then we need to fix that. Here, let me go ahead and turn that up a little bit. Like, that's why I was wondering, because we got the Armor Core Nexus soundtrack playing in the background. I had it really quiet after the sound was kind of blowing everyone's eardrums out the other day. So let's go ahead and see if that goes. If it sounds like weird computer noises, then you know it's an Armored Core soundtrack. So, see, not much on the music. Okay, let's see how that goes now. I turned it up by about 30%. We'll see how that. Yep, there we go. Sounds like we are good to go. What exactly is your... What are you doing here, Vyce? Okay, you apparently spawned in with your own custom equipment. Good to know. He is a heavy claw warrior, apparently. Has all the crossbow bolts just completely bounce off his face. Man, I love the, I love the range balance in OV. Like, legitimately, I don't know which one I prefer at different times between Reborn and OV as far as the range formula goes. I feel like, in general, OV is, like, the better balanced one, but you can stack so much bullshit in Reborn. But yeah, no, as far as actually simulating armor, though, OV definitely kind of takes the cake on that one. Alright. But yeah, as far as the people that are here, I guess who's familiar with what here? Like, how much should I be explaining as far as this mod is concerned? Because it sounds like we at least have some familiarity, but I'm assuming it's like the typical 50-50 or so. I don't know. But, alright. Also, as far as Cashua goes, she's running Dark Priest, just kind of because. Interestingly enough, by the way, the Limelight ability here that basically works like one of the old Princess abilities, makes everybody turn around and face her, which is just kind of a funny touch. Oh wait, this is my Swordmaster guy, now my gun guy. Okay, let's go ahead and have you go over here. So yeah, Swordmaster build over here as a dual-wielder sword, basically going to set up a stagger with the first attack, trying to set up a sleep with the second attack. It's dubiously consistent, but it works well enough as far as a flanker unit goes. Let's see, you know the basics of OV, but haven't played all the way through? Well, then there's a lot. There's a lot to potentially unpack, as it were. Alright, now Healing Strike's gonna be 50. Alright, let's see. Probably set up a Bane on you. I think we'll go ahead and do the first setup on this one. That's one of the cool things about this class. It's like you set them up with a haste with the spirits and such. You have them use their Bane to set up a breach ahead of time, and then you have a wizard cast some kind of dark thing ahead of time. And that is how you end up getting your big crazy damage numbers and such. I'm saying such instead of such again. I don't know why the hell that happens. But okay. Alright. Also, one of the main reasons I actually run Sword and Parrying Dagger over on Denim over there is just because it looks cool when he's just fighting with both hands at one time. Okay, so can we... You probably won't have any angle from Pain side here. Possibly from here? Maybe? No, that's dubious. There's no way that shot's landing. Yeah, she doesn't have a Dark Star as of yet. We do have a lot of people potentially following up here, so why don't you just go ahead and fence that dude, as it were. Go ahead and absorb everyone's MP over in this direction. Alright, there we go. It's going to eat Denim's MP because he's not using it as of yet. He's more of a TP guy, but we'll get there when we get there. Have Peppa Pike go do her thing over here and attempt to... Ooh, right. I forgot that her accuracy is pretty awful. Where's my other Hawkman? Okay, here. Let's go ahead and set up ballistics on you. So, Dragonborn's an interesting class, by the way. Just to kind of explain this, why her accuracy is so bad, she's like half the level of everybody else for one thing. But for another, she doesn't really have much in the ways of skills yet, because again, generic made into a class that typically comes all preloaded with a bunch of abilities. But also, the main shtick of this class is they don't actually use weapon skills. Like, anatomy basically is their weapon skill, and they mostly rely on, like, magic and dragon shout abilities, which is just, again, as with everything, just freaking cool for the sake of being cool. Anyway, we'll get Vyce smashed in the face, as you do. Alright, let's see, a Reborn guy here. Gonna dive into OV after watching your content, do a good job explaining as you go. Well, I hope I can at least convince a little bit. Trying my best. I know I'm a little bit of a spaz, but trying my best here. As you do. So let's see, who's a little low at the moment? He should have the right range to go ahead and reach Mr. Vyce here. Get rid of that stun, give him a little bit of heal. This is why the Fusilier, which is going to be this guy over here. Fusiliers in this one are basically the same as the Arbalesters from Unicorn Overlord. Okay, let's see, want to play Tactics Circuit for the first time, which is better, One Vision or Reborn? Like, Reborn for story, One Vision for mechanics. Generally, most find it easier to start with Reborn just because it's, like, a lot smoother to get into. The thing is, like, Tactics Ogre in general, so going back to its original PSP version, it's a game that tried to do a crazy amount of mechanics at once. Like, it tried to go absolutely nuts in terms of simulation and stuff like that. And this led to this weird situation where in that original PSP release, it just straight up didn't use, I would say, even half the mechanics that they had in there. They were just like, well, keep throwing stuff in there, and maybe somebody will end up rebalancing this at some point or something, I don't know. So they just kind of kept throwing stuff in there, right? Then we had Reborn, and in the Reborn version, they did a good job of distilling all of that into a more manageable form. So, like, instead of needing to memorize the ins and outs of, like, friggin' 20 different passives that were constantly in a quiet war against each other, instead it was just like, okay, look, there's equipment, there's cards, like, that's all you really need here. That's really the important and fun stuff anyway. A lot of the mechanics were simply built in, so instead of having to understand the differences between parries, deflects, and how to use the overpower skill, instead it was just like, okay, you have a one-handed weapon, okay, that just will parry attacks now depending on its quality. It just parries and deflects attacks for you. You know, things like counterattacks being built into heavy weapons instead of trying to figure out how to make, you know, what counterattack what. But this also opened up additional options, like for example, you know that bows counterattack, you have a, let's say, one-handed bow that has a counterattack effect on there, and now you have counter and parry at the same time. You can combine those in with certain pieces of equipment. You then, like, align the different finishers between these different weapons to have good elemental coverage, and that's its own particular feeling. Again, it's a fun type of team building. As far as, like, building for elements, building for kind of obvious elemental counters and stuff like that. When it comes to One Vision, it's a bit more... Like, if Reborn was a bit more Pokemon, this is a bit more, like... I guess in the weeds, like, D&D tabletop simulator kind of shenaniganry going on. Where, like, it, you know, like, let's say you have a priest that's carrying around a staff, and so you modify their staff to be better at parrying, and you give them a type of helmet that helps them to parry particular attacks, and then you, like, align their armor in such a way that they're hopefully not being targeted by ranged attacks, so you don't have to worry about needing to know how to deflect arrows, and it's just like, if you like all of that extra complication, then One Vision does it really, really, really well. And then if you like the just kind of general game flow, like, just kind of get into it and go nuts kind of state, then Reborn's going to be more for you. I mean, I personally hop back and forth. They're both really well done, but in completely opposite directions, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Let's see, Reborn is much easier to get into. OV is great once you do a deep dive into mechanics. Yeah, and that's a way simpler way to explain what I just said. See, if your content was more polished, it wouldn't be as good. The spaz is part of the charm. Well, thank you. I like to think that it's at least doing something for someone here. Let's see, Pumpkin. Oh yeah, we got Pumpkin Stoffley's in the team. His name bar is actually impossible. He's actually one of the pumpkins that shows up during the Deneb recruitment side quest, and he has an impossible amount of letters in his name. So that's just fun. Okay, now let's go ahead and see what kind of stuff we can do with this healing strike, because somehow she has been severely dunked on as far as timing went. Okay, we'll just go ahead and punch this dude, but like just for comparison, regular punch damage, not very good. Healing strike damage, insanely good. So she just kind of like goes and touches somebody and vaporizes them. Now this is normally Elrig's unique class. Again, I just made a generic version out of a random unit that I had laying around that wasn't testing any other class for the purpose of, you know, testing stuff. So, alright. Let's see, I happen to have more than one copy of the original Super Famicom version. What are your thoughts on playing the translation ROM hack of the original version after playing Reborn? Old fart is one hell of a line. I always love that one. That's why there actually was a mod put together a few months back where they actually used AI voices and stuff to put the old fart line back into the game. Again, one of the few positive use cases for something like AI. But yeah, no, I love the bluntness of the translation in that one, even if most of the combat mechanics barely existed. Like, I do go back and play that one from time to time, but yeah, it can be a little bit rough. Alright. Let's see, Reborn reduces rage, OV lets you geek. Yeah, that also makes sense. Alright, okay, her MP's looking pretty good. Also, one more thing to probably mention for those wondering, you know, for those that maybe just showed up, we are currently in kind of like New Game Plus mode right now, which is why we've got a bunch of advanced classes right at the very beginning of the game, which is why they're kind of coming in with, you know, more stuff, as it were. Which is why in a moment we're going to start nuking them with boss abilities, but, you know, we'll get there when we get there. Okay. Let's go ahead and have you circle around here. Pop that guy, or girl, rather. And go ahead and take their counter shot back. You probably just go ahead and heal up Peppa Pike. And there we go. But yeah, One Vision is basically like, it's build porn for all intents and purposes. Like, it really just kind of gets into the nitty-gritty of what made the original kind of simulation aspects of this game so fun. But at the same time, it manages to let you flex kind of those mental muscles, as it were, as far as actually building things, while also not going too far with it. Like, that was the problem of the original PSP remake. I probably should have just... What am I doing? I meant to go for the recruit here. Sorry. Trying to go for the recruit, and then, like, mentally I was like, that's somehow a lower damage number. It was not. And they got completely destroyed there. And we want to train that recruit skill a little bit. But yeah, like in the PSP version, it had all of the more or less same mechanics that we see in One Vision, but it got carried away with, like, just needless bickering between different mechanics. So it's like, oh, you know, you have a armor simulation system, and we're gonna do so much with that. And then it's like, oh wait, they have fortify, the armor totally doesn't matter. They have strengthen, the armor totally doesn't matter. If they have strengthen, hey, like suddenly all their defense is gone. Oh hey, they have fortify, it doesn't matter what armor they had, your damage is just gone anyway. Like, no matter what build you did, the passives are always there to just kind of immediately erase away any creativity you had. A lot of the cross-classing was weirdly limited in oddly specific ways. Like, every piece of concept art you see for Tashua, they're like, here's her with a sword, here's a cutscene of her stabbing somebody with a knife. You look at her in-game weapon selection, they're like, she gets stabs. That's it? No, just stabs, just never anything but stabs. So, like when Vision comes along, they're like, okay, she used swords, or she used swords in the concept art. She gets to use light swords. She's not exactly a physically intimidating person. She can use daggers, and for example, within that sword category, there's fencing swords, which are going to have a longer reach, which let her attack stuff from a bit more safety, potentially, allowing her to, let's say, combine that in with a pushing ability, to push somebody back, put them into a crowd, at which point she can go and like leech all the MP out of that crowd, and it's just like that's a really fun mechanical interaction that technically was always there in the game, but you never really got a chance to see it because it was like, no, you got to worry about fortify and spellcraft. Oh, you didn't put spellcraft? I'm sorry, your experienced wizard does not do damage now because you didn't do spellcraft. Oh, I'm sorry, they've been casting debuffs for thousands of hours, but hey, that's okay. That doesn't matter. You forgot to put spell strike, so their debuffs can't hit now. Again, the passives were just an annoying pain in the neck. The armor started to have ideas, and they just like forgot to complete doing those ideas. That was the PSP version. Like clearly they meant to do something a lot more similar to the way that OV does things, and just never possibly would have had the time to refine those ideas. And then when Vision comes along, they're like, here you go. You're like, here, just like give community feedback and receive amazing results. And just like every little change pops out, everybody throws their feedback at it, and then it's just sort of like democratically thrown forward as far as what stuff stays, what stuff goes, what stuff's bugged, what stuff is interacting weird. Like I still think one of my favorite random glitches when boulders were first being introduced. It's like if you had griffins on the team, you suddenly had griffins running around wielding gunblades. Oh man. Anyway. So let's see, let's catch up on some dialogue here. So my only issue with Reborn is that they kept counter on 2 to 3 spears and didn't swap it to parry. Yeah, that was a weird one. I'm not sure why the hell they did that. Honestly, I don't... Again, like, for the sake of comparison, like, what they did with... They were in a difficult spot, honestly. Like, when it comes to, let's say, to, like, what they could have potentially done as far as a remake went... their options were definitely always going to be limited. So like, oh yeah, I forgot Aura Heal actually heals skeletons too. Yeah, Aura Heal is one of the best area heals as far as like Sacred Fist goes, but it is unique to them. Unique to them and also unique to the Brynhilder. It can also do that ability, but it also doesn't heal enemies. But like, let's say, with that original PSP version, okay, let's take spears. The kind of thought process, as far as I figure by this point, behind a lot of those spears, was that they were trying to go for a historical nod, right? So, so like originally, in all other Tactics Ogre games, they're like, okay, you have spears, they're a 1 to 2 tile weapon, and you can combine in some kind of counter ability, right? Then we see PSP come along, and they're like, okay, look, we got the 2 to 3 range pike variants, because they were kind of going for that whole pike and shot thing that you would kind of see historically. And if you look through a lot of the pieces of equipment, there's a lot of that mentality of trying to work in interesting historical nods in fun ways. Like the way that chainmail, once you upgrade it, like basic chainmail is garbage, but once you upgrade the chainmail, it's actually good enough to get you through the entire war. Things like certain pieces of equipment are being very difficult to upgrade, or things like, let's say, having soldiers put down barricades and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff was clearly meant to have this kind of fun idea of like, okay, you have your fencers, they put down a barricade, and then they stab from behind that barricade. That's a really cool thing. So why on earth are those pikes coming in, basically completely opposite ends of the game compared with, let's say, the actual, barricades themselves? Like the barricades and the pikes are, I think, like 20 levels apart from each other, and every other unit that could theoretically make any use of a barricade couldn't. Because, like, for example, they had this barricade thing, you would put it down, and it's like, oh, I'm going to shoot my crossbows over it. No, you won't, because the crossbow will just kind of go directly into the barricade. Like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use anything other than a pike. Let's say use some guns with it. You know, guns, let's say, get the course correction ability, which then allows them to theoretically fire around things, but those were also not quite completely implemented right. So so instead the gun would still hit it because it technically has a health bar, which means the pike was the only weapon that was useful with a barricade. And so again, it seems like it was meant to be an interaction like that, where it's like you put down a barricade, you stab from behind it, and that in itself is a cool idea. By the time Reborn rolled around, they just kind of had these 2 to 3 range pikes just kind of hanging out there. If they completely got rid of them, somebody would cry foul. If they tried to completely rework the category, somebody would cry foul. You know, the usual kind of stuff. Honestly, I'm personally in that camp that, yeah, they should have totally just reworked spears entirely. But either way, as far as spears went, the only thing that they actually changed was making it so that the cursed spear, which previously was the best 1 to 2 range spear, instead just got made into a 2 to 3 range spear, and that it's bizarre, honestly. Like, I would have been fine just with them switching them all to 1 to 2 range, and then just forgetting the pike ID entirely, because they took barricades out in that version, which means that 2 to 3 range spears don't really do very much. So, anyway. But yeah, long-range spear is never going to counterattack. Exactly. So the idea is mostly that they just stab behind your lines, but that's just not a thing people usually do. Let's see, Fusilier class is better in which version? I think OV kind of takes the cake on that one. Like, let's say, well, let's see. You got the original SNES version, they have infinite range. That's pretty freaking cool. Let's say we, okay, it's really cool, but also you can't change anybody out of it, so it's got its problems, right? Then let's say we got the PSP version. They are ungodly slow, like terrifyingly slow, to the point that they basically shoot once and die. So that's not going to be super useful there. From there, we've got the OV version, which is basically like the Arbalester from Unicorn Overlord. So more or less, their deal is that they can shoot things, they can heal things. They get an ability that allows them to basically get rid of 1 debuff and throw out a small heal, which means they're really good at, let's say, taking risky actions, taking counterattacks, or let's say they can switch between, like, let's say a knife and pistol variation, a rifle variation. All of the Fusils in OV have extremely high crit rates, so this means that they're really chaotic when they're going and damaging stuff. They really feel like guns, so that's always pretty cool. Anyway, also, that's weird. Oh, no, wait, right, the Katatsu is a knife. What am I saying? Of course it would use that one. Sorry, I'm just thinking to myself here. They're really good in Reborn, in terms of getting access to thrown weapons, the thrown grenades and stuff like that. But they are kind of... Like, the shots are limited in terms of how many times they can be used. They have fairly limited movement, so as far as an actual grenade specialist, Beast Hammer just generally does that job better. And as far as ranged weapons go, they don't get elemental versions outside of the Cursed Fusil, which is kind of whatever. They can ignore terrain technically, but also if you, let's say, run a archer with a longbow, and in that particular case, let's say you give them the sneaky set or something, you give them a brimstone bow, and suddenly they're stacking like quadruple damage freaking snipe shots, then it's gonna do a decent bit more. Anyway, okay. So here, let's go ahead and save that real quick, and go ahead and move on as we do. That part always freaks me out when it switches over to just Chapter 1 there. Also, let's go ahead and give Vyce some better equipment, by which I mean give him anything of alacrity, because this dude cannot hit the broadside of his frickin' own face. Let's give him a helmet to improve his accuracy a little bit. Yeah, probably that from mind. Do we go Mirror Aspis on him? Nah, because I kind of want him being hit by spells and such. I'm just going to give him a Spike Shield for some damage reflection, and let's see what kind of claws we got on you. Saurian's fine, but that's an MP1. Yeah, go take some of these. There we go. Get yourself some Poison Claws so you can actually do some stuff. All right. Now let's see. Is there a one vision equivalent of Dark Priest? Yes, we've been using it. So the heretic is the Dark Priest in this one. So like Dark Priest, they have similar abilities, but a lot of their stuff is different as you'd kind of expect. So like Iron Maiden is going to be basically magic damage instead of kind of like a flat thing. So it'll scale off of her, let's say, dark augments and stuff like that. Covenant is kind of like the same ability that liches get. However, in her particular case, she can basically point at a crowd and just eat their MP, more or less. The mechanics, as far as kind of whichever side has more MP is the one that ends up losing MP, those end up staying the same. But the way that One Vision changed it is that you just kind of target it in an AoE and it just like suctions out all the MP from that area. So this means that Liches and the Heretic are really, really good at just suddenly getting gigantic spikes in MP there. Let's see. Obviously a lot more weapon access. Going down the list here, they get katanas of different variants, daggers, cudgels, whips, spellbooks, and instruments. All the usual augments, clarity, efficacy, as you'd kind of expect. They can talk to demons, because she's all dark and evil and shit. And as far as spells go, we get missiles, we get splashes, get summons, which the summons work very differently in One Vision. I gotta say, like, bar none, my favorite summons throughout any of the series here. The way that it's actually kind of novel, the way that Rakes got around the usual summon issue. So for those relatively unfamiliar, the reason summons are usually an issue is because they're basically a magical machine gun in every one of these games. And they're kind of like an end game thing that's usually extremely dominant in very specific situations. But like, let's say Knight of Lotus, right? Huge area to go target something, and usually it would kind of vary up the number of projectiles based off your intelligence. The good part was it had a very consistent amount of damage. The bad part was once intelligence got to a certain point, it would just completely blow away even bosses, right? So fixed damage was okay, but they wanted something a bit more exciting. PSP version comes in with the summons and basically says, okay, it's going to scale, like, it's basically going to be very heavily linked to your augments and your spellcraft and your intelligence, right? And this basically meant that due to vitality, armor, and stuff like that being very high and very important in that version, without getting into too many details here, if we mention too many numbers, that's when people start yelling at me. Anyway, no, in that version, it basically created this sort of like heaven or hell scenario where summons would either completely bounce off, doing 1 damage repeatedly, or just completely annihilate something out of the box. So, very kind of inconsistent there. In Reborn, they made it so the magic is more consistent, a bit more flat across the board, but this also meant that if somebody threw enough intelligence charms on somebody, once again, summons come back as basically just micro-missiles at that point. just completely bombarding away an entire area, which are fun to use, but oftentimes can lead to tunnel vision. So, like, splashes are some of the best that they've ever been in Reborn. But oftentimes they get ignored because, hey, the summons do the cool, rotatey, splashy thing. They go in machine gun stuff. It looks way cooler. But anyways, so the way that the One Vision handled it is that the range is exactly 7. Its targeting range is very specific. Your movement targets it at a fixed range kind of thing. It is very, very subject to enemy magic defenses. So, like, stuff like clerics and wizards and stuff like that, summons just don't do anything to them. Things like tanks, it completely shreds apart. But due to the fact that they're high cost, they take a while to use, and they're very specific to target, this means that whenever the AI breaks out summons, instead of spamming useless attacks, oftentimes it's a very notable oh shit moment that something is about to die. So either way, it makes it feel a lot more special. Okay, let's see. Best way to send you some support. Someone watching your stuff, when it's long to do so. I mean, usually I just say Patreon, if you're doing all that sort of thing, if you find all the stuff valuable and whatnot. Okay, let's see. How about AI on One Vision? Did they change the AI? As actually, I think I just saw a comment about that. Yeah, AI is technically the same, but since the stuff has gotten moved around, it got improved. Yeah, and it's basically exactly that. That everything is sort of adjusted in a way that makes the AI just kind of understand it better. So, like, let's say you'll notice in Reborn, they took away the ability for the AI to actually do a lot of debuffs outside of a secondary effect. So, like, for example, when fairies attack something with their charm move, they added a fixed 30 damage to the thing so that they always sort of can see it as damage, but they will refuse to use a debuff unless there's a damage component applied. Now, in the PSP version, the reason that they changed it that way from the PSP version, and the reason that the PSP version originally changed it from its Japanese PSP version, is because it used to spam it nonstop. And it was a little bit inconsistent over what it considered sort of acceptable, missable risk and stuff like that. So, like, let's say Palsy Skein here. This is the original, what would have originally been Paralytic Wave, right? And I feel like this is probably at least a okay example of this whole thing. So, like, original Japanese version, they would have just spammed this nonstop. Original PSP version, they also would spam this nonstop. The reason that they spammed it nonstop is because stun is one of the best debuffs in the game, but they can't tell the AI, okay, that dude's completely immune to the thing, don't target them, because potentially, like, let's say it, like, I don't know what functions it has to check what, but let's say it shows up as 0%. They will gladly take a 0% attack on something over and over and over. I don't know why they're prevented from seeing, like, oh, it's less than 10%, I don't want to go for it, but they spammed it all the time. And the annoying part was, let's say you have stuff like the Branton Morn fight. They come in with, let's say, 5 or 6 Terror Knights, right? And they're all going and they're spamming Paralytic Wave. Each of their odds to hit are something like 12%, and they end up hitting them eventually, but they will just keep spamming them. It's really annoying, but not necessarily threatening. And so then they had to balance for that by saying that, oh, you can only remove one debuff at a time. There's no, like, area clear debuffs with very few exceptions, right? So it was this weird rabbit hole of trying to balance all of these different elements at the same time. So for Reborn, they're like, okay, just fuck it. Secondary effects, that's where it's at. This is working out just fine. You get your stuns from the from the Cyclops. You get your breaches from the Dragon. Like, we're not dealing with trying to balance out 20 different things at the same time. The way that One Vision handles it is a combination of specifically tiering things out depending on MP and certain debuffs being combined together. So, like, let's say Palsy Skein will be able to target a one-tile area. This is going to do stun plus stagger. It's no longer an AoE, but it also now does 2 different effects. It can't be immediately wiped out because how you get rid of debuffs in this one is actually that you'll get rid of debuffs in an area, but you inflict debuffs usually in a single thing. It's a complete inverse from the way the PSP handled it. But oftentimes this will mean that when it comes to your debuffs, they typically are a lot more targeted towards where they need to go. Some of the ones that were, let's say, a bit more oppressive would end up getting narrowed down into a specific area and potentially given more effects. Some that weren't used very often or just were too rare typically got combined with other things. So, like, let's say Wormhole is basically like a pocket version of Demi from Final Fantasy, where it's going to do 10% damage plus Leaden. So that the Leaden, which previously didn't feel that threatening, which it actually is already pretty threatening in this version, has a sort of damage component that the AI likes to see. Things like Slow, it already liked to use pretty decently well, but then you have other cases of, let's say, like dark spells like Lancet, which allow you to transfer your health to somebody else, but also it gives you a secondary heal on yourself after the fact, means that even dark users still have a sort of support element to them. So sometimes they were given a support element, sometimes they were given a defensive element. Like, every spell has gone through a ton of different iterations over the years to give it, like, just a lot of different potential applications, whether it's as a distraction, whether it's an offensive thing, a defensive thing, and as people found new uses for them, stuff was then further adjusted. Okay, that was a whole lot of explanation for our basically just debuffs are good. Alright. Going back to the text here, is there a Bard class in the RPG? Yes, there is a Bard class in the RPG, and we just got them recently. Here's the Bard class in the RPG. She does Bard things. Let's see. If you want the half caster of the D&D Bard, then you go with Rune Fencer or Valk, or if you want to go even more kind of proper Bard status on it, you go for the Warlock, because the Warlock here, first of all, they were given this because of visuals. Like that is some Bard-ass visuals right there. Anyways, second of all, as far as their abilities went, like for example, I have him as a Warlock. They also get instruments, they also get their spell books, they also get their half-caster things. Sometimes they'll have support ability, sometimes they'll have AoE ability, sometimes they'll have all kinds of different thingies. So like in this case, he's just going and splashing stuff with his water and such. Why? Oh yeah, I'm browsing the wrong thing. So like, let's say Sludge Bind, and cover somebody's feet in mud for lead slow and a recovery time delay, corrosion for getting rid of some of their TP points and inflicting poison, purify as a guaranteed poison heal and just a heal in general, putting a haze in the air to make people dodge arrows better, that kind of thing. So yeah, you got a little bit of everything there. Is kind of what we're going with. All right. Oh, holy hell! Thank you, Sam. I just saw the email popped up. Damn! Thank you very much. That's a lot. Well, thank you a ton. Okay, let's see. See how Gamp is looking in this case. All right, next. Let's see. Character that plays music to help allies with combat like an FFT. So you actually have a lot of different variants of that. Like they're saying, yeah, swordmasters, singers, dancers, and yeah, instruments as well. So yeah, there's a lot of them. So yeah, swordmasters are. You actually even have multiple different variants of the swordmaster because you also have the blade knight, which Ogre can use. But yeah, songstress can do both dances and songs. You got Blade Knight that can do ninja stuff and dances. You get all of the dances available on your Swordmaster. They're basically going to give everybody double buffs. So like Lion Dance is strength and plus dodge, stuff like that. Harvest Dance is going to be a decent heal at this point. Like OV's heal is generally the better version of Harvest Dance. There, it's still not amazing. Like, it's not going to completely operate the entire team, but everyone's got a lot of additional functions. But yeah, no, if you wanted that, like, that bard flavor of being both like magical as well as musical, as well as also being a little bit of an artificer in their off time, like that's why the Warlock is probably, I would say, arguably one of my favorites as far as One Vision's concerned, because like you got the magic stuff, you got the sports stuff, you got the instruments. You can do things like, let's say, enchanting your weapon to guarantee a critical hit, which also guarantees the rare chance of a charm on every instrument. Because when you play your instrument violently at somebody, you have a chance to charm them. So like, let's say you use the fire tree to go give yourself a guaranteed crit. You then hit somebody with your instrument for that guaranteed crit. They're mind controlled at that point, and then once their mind control is about to run out, you then go throw a toxic mustard gas grenade on them. It's like, yay, we've managed to musically optimize our war crimes at this point. Alright. Let's see here. Charming and status is more the wizard thing. Yeah, there's a lot of potential charm options for sure. In fact, actually, I was really surprised to see with the Headhunter. Like, I didn't know what the hype was about the Headhunter for a decently long time. That's a Gamsini class. But yeah, being able to use Tremendous Shot as a Beast Tamer, basically, that's actually pretty legit as far as mind control darts and stuff. Okay. See, Rune Fencers can serve as a support and more of a heavy variant if you want to go for it. Also has access to a sort of inspiration skill to guarantee hits. Yeah, Faded Circle's awesome. Okay, leave Yuria where she is for right now. And we'll go ahead and slap this dude with a God Hand. Hopefully we get the stun. Did not get the stun. Did not get much of anything going well there. Go for the preempt in case maybe they want to get stunned instead. That's probably going to go poorly. But yeah, we're just going to try to dunk on Berta here. Right. One hit on you. Did we get the sleep? Did not get the sleep, but we did get the block, so that's good. That's part of the reason this guy's dual wielding. Usually his 2 hits by this portion in the game are like far long enough that he can actually usually get a steel stance activated from the first attack. Okay, take one of our poison grenades over on the Griffin, who should not have enough space here to really do much threat. We'll go ahead and take our little thrusty sword, go ahead and slap you over there. And let's see, does anyone have any MP over here? No. Eat their MP, I suppose? Okay. Worst case scenario, if she needs it, she'll just go ahead and borrow everybody's MP for now, in case she needs to nuke something next round. Alright. See, dude, your explanation of debuffs made Reborn so much more fun for me. It makes sense about the Shaman army. They aren't using any debuffs. Oh, yeah. And, like, spamming debuffs is just so much fun. Especially, I know guaranteed 30% doesn't sound like much, but it was such a major deal. Like, when the game came out and such. Like, when it comes to debuffs and such, you have to realize, like, in PSP, right, there were no guarantees for any of that, which meant that if you didn't have Spell Strike, like as in you didn't have the ability, which means that you didn't have Spell Strike stacking up like 5 frickin' times in your back pocket, your debuffs just didn't hit. Your choice was either 100% or 0. So having something locked in at just 30% doesn't seem like much, but it just put the biggest smile on my face once I realized that. Again, it's one of those things, like a true sign of an obsessive over this sort of thing, but it just made me very excited for it. Okay, also, by the way, for anyone that wants to see any particular classes used, we basically have almost everything on the team at this point. Beast Tamer is currently benched on account of the last 3 that I had are dead, and Gamp was more or less taking over that role, but if you want to see anything in particular tested, do let me know. Like, for example, with Peppa Pike, because she doesn't have any weapon specializations, because she is basically a Skyrim class, this does also mean that she can swap out weapons without any real worries. So, for example, now she's going to go ahead and be an archer. Let's see, hit the shop hard after watching a couple of videos. Bring the Octos. Okay, we'll bring the Octos next turn. I should have read that before doing the thing. But yeah, we'll do that. Alright. Now, accuracy is going to be pretty darn poor, so let's see if we can get a little bit of accuracy action going on here. There, Hair of the Unicorn, that's what I'm looking for. So Peppa Pike is going to be a little bit out of sorts here, but we'll go ahead and at least give her a little bit of a buff here. Now, one of those things that kind of One Vision managed to handle here, that actually Reborn also manages to mostly nail for most of it, like at least they nailed it for the story mode, is when it comes to getting rid of those passives, just having one stack of the passive, courtesy of items and such, basically created this moment that pretty much every build is always viable throughout the whole game. Like, not in a everybody's equal and gets a shot kind of situation. I mean more of a like every idea you can come up with will consistently remain within its same role, you know? So, like, how do I explain this? Like, let's say the Skirmisher build, right? So, one of my favorite kinds of things is basically like just kind of whatever happens when, let's say, you have a melee weapon and you have a ranged weapon in the other hand. It's something that is fun to use throughout most of the beginnings of many Tactics Ogre games, but oftentimes will completely fall off. There are exceptions, but like generally speaking, let's say you're playing Knight of Lotus, your short bow is going to do nothing by the end game. If you're playing the PSP version, it's very weird because if you decided to go with bows, the Damask Bow +1 falls off extremely hard in terms of its basic attacks, and its finishers are okay. And then you have stuff like the Damask Crossbow +1, which earns its whole fact that it's literally its own crafting book for only that one crafted weapon, by the fact that it can one-shot basically anything, like, full stop. Like, once you get access to that crossbow, plus its final finisher, it's just one-shots Vil from here to forever. It's not even close. But again, just lots of weird balancing stuff in that one. But the AI would never use that build. They would always just bring one weapon, and they would never do stuff like this, where it's like one melee weapon, one ranged weapon. And sure, he had to specifically force it to use those builds when it chooses to use them, but short bows consistently get upgrades throughout the game, so they keep up with everything else. They will, kind of as intended, bounce off of heavy armor, but they will be a decent threat to everything else, giving them a certain amount of utility depending on kind of what you're trying to do with them. You know, sometimes they'll be good, sometimes they'll be bad, but they will be consistent in terms of what their physical kind of role there is, you know? Okay, so we got Miles over here, you go this way. Also, to the person that said the Power Fist is good, yes, the Power Fist is amazing. It's actually seeing a nerf in the next patch, just so you know. The reason that I'm using it is because it's a guaranteed stun attack, so like it's classed as a heavy shield. So all of the heavy shield variants will have a guaranteed stun attack on there. That means they will stun every time that they attack. Or rather, every time that they connect, and they also can't be parried or anything like that. Now, that's all well and good, but with the defense rework that happened in the most recent patch, there was a little bit too much beef given to the Power Fist, which means that oftentimes it can hit just as hard as your regular weapon, so that's why that's seeing a little bit of a nerf within the next patch, which again is landing any day now, so that's all well and good. What do we want to do here? Just do Limelight? Let's just do Limelight. Alright. Let's see. Any preliminary options on, or opinions on Ranger? That was always one of my favorites, specifically during my first OV playthrough. As of so far, no. I know that it had some changes since the last time that I used it, and it's currently the last class that I have to go pick up in order to properly do the tier list of this whole thing. So I've been meticulously testing out every single class in this thing for like a year. Which granted, it wasn't supposed to take a year, and then it did, so, you know, these things happen. But yeah, this particular save file has been going on a decently long minute, and as a result, there's been lots of testing done, and I still don't even have all of them, like, at the same level even. There's just that many classes. But yeah, so the current plan is to just get Vyce, test the class out a little bit, and then sometime within the next couple days do a proper like tier list of the whole thing, which should be pretty darn fun, I think. Okay, no particular things to worry about here. I actually have line of sight on here. Let's get that guy, I guess. It's kind of close to our Sacred Fist over there, and she might be able to one-shot nuke the guy, but we'll see. Alright, you, on the other hand, need to go over this way and get rid of your poison by shooting somebody. So you do this. As far as the old meme goes, of like, oh, you can't heal yourself by hurting somebody else, and then like, well, I don't know about that. Got our first aid right over here, so that'll get rid of the poison, give a nice little small heal. Vyce going this way. He's going to body block for the moment. And then we'll start throwing out maybe some poison grenades, maybe some water. Let's see how that's looking. 372. You know what? Actually, you're just going to go for the Purify here. Get these guys topped off so we're not seeing anybody get knocked down. But yeah, no, there's been a lot of reworks as far as different classes go, so, I know Vyce has the plot teleport, which is pretty cool. So for those that didn't know, the sneak attack thing, it's never really seen much use. Throughout many different variations, it's just never really kind of gotten the love that you'd kind of hope. So one thing that he ended up getting is basically like a teleport that also functions as a sneak attack. So you know how there's that one cutscene where he teleports behind a certain leader and then just like basically stabs them and then gets Robocopped himself? Yeah, he gets that ability as the Ranger at this point. Again, as all the characters basically have any abilities that they've been shown to have in cutscenes, they have them now. So that's kind of his bread and butter move. I don't know what else he gets at this point, but we'll take a look at that as time goes on. So, are any of these characters injured enough? Yeah, you might get recruited. He also changed how Recruit works, by the way, so that it will use the full range of however good your Recruit is at whatever kind of whatever range is actually available to them, and then your skill determines your range. And I'm explaining this very badly. Sorry, I need to grab another cup of coffee. Do the range with the thing with the do the buttons, and then recruiting happens. Booby traps, double shot, dual wield. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, he always was kind of the super ninja. I don't. It still blows my mind to me that the original Japanese version had ninjas with freaking longbows. Like, who possibly looked at that and thought that's okay? Oh man. Anyway, but yeah, one of those other weird random knock-on effects, since I'm just kind of bouncing between topic to topic here, between not having that many passives, is that everyone can use most of their abilities, which means that when you, let's say, run into random warrior units in the wild, they have their double attacks, their mighty strikes, their dodge moves, and everything else. They can actually use abilities and stuff. Who would have thunk it? What a concept. What a concept. PSP, why are you so stingy with letting the player do anything whatsoever? Who knows? But yeah, booby traps are amazing. But especially if you can do, like, booby trap plus shield, because he was always a little bit of a guardsman sort. Like, you just kind of drop a booby trap, and then just shield bash somebody right into it. Guaranteed 50% damage on whatever it was. So that's always nice. But here we go. We need a little bit of an area heal type situation, so we'll just go ahead and do that. As far as her better songs yet, I haven't had a chance to go into San Bronze and such, so there will be some assumptions as far as some of her songs go, but we'll see how that goes over time. Alright. Get this one, see if you can get clawed. Nope. No such luck. Alright, now, as far as the healing strike goes, not going to do it there. It is going to do it there. So, can you actually reach that guy? Yes, you can. It's like, yeah, healing strike is kind of like if Sacred Fist got access to, what is it, like Wild Rush from FFTA? Because the concept is very similar. Like, it either kills him or you just do nothing. so there's that. Okay. Mr. Lambert, why don't you go over here and probably take advantage of one of these doubles. I feel like probably just getting her cut down is going to be the more important thing here. There we go, she's gone. You steal stance. See, no, scratch that, he was just a ninja with extra stats. Let's see, basically an assassin. Oh wait, hold on. Basically an assassin, which, funnily enough, was his NPC class in the 1v1 in Classic. Yeah, I think he was, wasn't he technically, like, half ninja, half swordmaster, if I recall correctly? Because he did have some different stuff that he could dual wield, I remember that much. He also had a few spells, but... Wait, did he? Or am I thinking of the other one? I might be misremembering something there. Here, you just go ahead. Actually, no. Do we go with heal or corrosion? These guys have some TP built up. I think we'll just go corrosion here. There we go. So we'll go that direction. Is Songstress OP, amazing sport? It's solid. It's one of these ones where it's like, you can't really say anything against it. The one thing that I've been kind of iffy on so far as the Songstress goes is just it takes her a little bit of a while to get online. But these things happen. Okay, let's see. Probably just have her spear somebody. You won't be able to reach there. You know what, let's just have you go this direction. Do a little bit of evasion action, do a little bit of just kind of sitting still for the moment. Actually, I guess same could probably be said for the Matriarch too. Because usually by turn 2, they're able to, let's say, get their Hyper Shield and stuff going, but they're always starving for MP. There's ways around it, kind of, but it always feels like they're starving. Okay. Let's see, Playable Vyce was a ninja with extra stats and basic attack spells of each element. Okay, that's what that was. Like, I remember briefly covering that a while ago, but couldn't remember what the hell it was all about it. Alright. Alright, you need to go over here. Attempt to recruit this one. Because, yeah, this whole long-range recruitment thing is very convenient. Because you can just kind of get everybody on your side. Like, it's okay, it's Skeleton. He's everybody's buddy. He's just the undead. Don't worry about it. You'd love to join our team. Go hang out with Mr. Bones. Let's see. Lich, Life Drain, Spell Charge the Songstress. Also true. Also very true. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can set them up. They're just... Like I said, at this point, I'm still kind of training them up and stuff like that, so... There's options, and I have not explored all those options as of yet. And I definitely, after the end of this fight, gonna go grab another cup of coffee real quick. Yeah, I feel like partially also, weirdly enough, one of the options that I have not explored on her yet that I probably should, is going to be, is actually going to be instruments. It's like, if you just go forward with instruments, just kind of hit something long range, you basically have all your TP already nice and set up. So you basically go that into Limelight, or either... maybe not even into Limelight. Actually, no. Yeah, Limelight's fine in that particular case. Like, if you, let's say, load her down with equipment, make her a little bit heavier than some of your frontliners, send her forward with lighter weight frontliners, hit plus Limelight, kind of speed everything up nearby. Especially, I feel like White Knights would probably be a pretty good combo with her. Because, like, if you make the White Knights outspeed her, then you kind of Limelight into Time of Need, which then resets her, which then instantly lets her buff everybody else. You could do a little bit of, I guess, like, fairy action from Reborn in that particular case. So there's that. Let's see. Hello, here I have a question. I'm playing Original Luck, and I just completed Chapter 4. I found out there's One Vision mod for this game. Is it possible to import my save file to the One Vision mod? Which version were you playing, is the question. If it was the PSP version, technically yes, but a lot of stuff will seem out of place. And the version is so different that in many ways it's kind of just recommended to go do it again. So, like, technically you can use it, but do you want to? But yeah, technically speaking, yes, you can if it was a PSP version. If not, then not so much, because they would be completely different versions, so that would be a little bit of an issue. So there's that. It's the PSP version, then yes, you would be able to transfer it over. As soon as you installed One Vision, it would just kind of show up on the list. So it would show on the list. I'll show in just a second. One Vision and the original game will actually have different save icons at this point, so you can tell them apart. But yeah, if you're worried about your progress and stuff like that, generally progress is a lot faster in OV, and there's just a lot more stuff going on in general. That's why it's usually recommended to just kind of start over from the beginning if you are going that route, because you will have a lot more stuff available to you than you probably would have in that PSP version. So, like, let's say you're playing PSP, realistically speaking, depending on what you're up to at any given time, equipment-wise, you would just have the basics by the time you get to Chapter 4 in almost every situation, unless you were specifically over-grinding in some really specific manner, going out of your way to, you know, curb stomp everything along the way, trying everything that you possibly can to make yourself overpowered or whatever else. So, like, if you were going full Sweatlord with it, you would wind up with a situation that you maybe have access to basic elemental gear. In One Vision, if you took that same route, you would have access to, you know, movement boosting items. You would have a bunch of custom equipment available from the shop. You'd have different side grades available for all those different pieces of custom equipment. Like, just builds in general work entirely different. So, like, let's say in this particular case, when we see a character that, let's say, is running heavy leggings, a robe, and a shield, this means that they will have all those characteristics of those pieces of equipment, regardless of anything else. So, like, instead of just worrying about stats in this particular case, she is guaranteed to be very good against kind of reflecting away spells because of the robe. She's going to be decent, at least, as far as taking kind of light to medium hits because of the heavy leggings, and will have at least somewhat okay evasion due to the shield. So, you know, she was kind of built as a little bit more of a generalist, whereas, let's say, somebody with a bit more heavy armor would pretty much completely plink away things like arrows, but would have, let's say, a harder time versus, you know, two-handed warhammers or something like that. There's a lot more simulation aspects in this one. So, anyways, yeah, technically you can carry it over. You're probably going to be missing some stuff if you do that. Alright, let's go ahead and firestorm this one, and just kind of move on here. Okay. That's all one on good there. I think we'll... Okay, I really should pick up some kind of other spells for him. Or some kind of other, I should say, magic regeneration abilities for him, because he is very limited in that particular department. But it's fine. It's not a huge deal. It is what it is. Alright. And finally, you should just be able to shoot this one. And then we just have the one archer left over there. Let's see. Nothing for our pumpkin to do here. Stay put. I see this guy's helmet. I always want him to throw javelins. He does not currently have javelins. Oh well. Actually, yeah, speaking of weird PSP quirks, by the way, there was one very specific one that I totally forgot until going through that Japanese version again recently. So over in the original PSP version, they had a sort of like subcategory, I guess you could call it, of like weapon access for thrown weapons that I was just kind of mentally called the Dainty Hands collection. But, like, for some reason, they had an entire separate, different section of thrown weapons exclusively to kind of lighter weight characters that were just the kinds of things that happen to have handles on them that, like, potentially wouldn't hurt your hands when you're throwing them. It's the weirdest thing, but like, for example, Princess had some of that. We had Rune Fencers that had some of that. Again, just one of many just kind of strange, random odds and ends they shoved in the PSP version. I don't know what they were thinking with that one in particular. It doesn't seem like there's any balance reason for it. They're just like, these ones have handles, and their dainty hands would be able to use them. Anyway. Neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and see if we can finish off with the Dark Star. Yes. Okay, how many hours is it to reach Chapter 4 in One Vision? I just really want to continue the story. Depends entirely up to you. So, when I did a speedrun of it, I think it was like 15 hours for a full playthrough of the game. But yeah, it depends entirely on how you choose to play it. If you limit the number of classes that you end up using, so like, let's say you pick like 4 classes that you really like, and you just kind of focus on that one core team, you can probably get it done, like, again, 10-15 hours, give or take. Possibly shorter than that, depending on how good you are at, let's say, sniping leaders or whatnot. If you are just looking to continue the story, again, you can bring in your save file, just know that there's going to be some jank. Alright, so, while the War Crimes cutscene is playing, I'm going to go refresh my coffee real quick, so I will be... Oh yeah, right, we got one more fight before then. So let's go ahead and save that. But this is what I mean. You'll see, like, original save files will look like this. One Vision saves will look like this. So they will have different icons at this point to help you organize things. Bring the Octos. Exactly, we're bringing the Octos. So let's go ahead and replace Peppa Pike with Nyx. And let's go ahead and replace Aelith with Mr. Lycos over here. Yeah, one of those interesting things with octopi in this one, is yeah, you'll notice that they don't have any Aqua Veil on there. They're solid physical fighters, they're solid ranged fighters, but yeah, they can't use any of their water abilities unless there's water tiles. They are strictly limited in that particular regard, but like, you get empowered friggin' like Blue Spiral or something like that, and it's basically a Hyper Beam. So that's pretty great. Anyways, so while all of that's happening, I'm gonna go ahead and gonna be right back. Gotta go get me some more coffee, and then we'll go from there. Just a moment. Alrighty then, let's get back to it. Alright, so let's see. Octopowers are limited to water tiles and OV. Yes, but as they mentioned, there's a lot of things that can count as water tiles. So there's not going to be very much in this particular one because, like, you know, middle of a city. But there are going to be a lot of things that count as water. Let's see. Puddle, valid, the ocean, yes. Mold, poisoned, exactly, yep. Yeah, piss puddles and Palace of the Dead probably count. That they do. Let's see, POD's full dose. You can get Octopus to levitate there. You can. Possibly, it's been a while since I tried it. Circumvent the tick damage. That you can. Let's see, I'm just curious. Octos are like Cyclopes. I never used them before. Synergy was explained. So, okay, depends on which version you're talking about. Because they all work very differently in the different games. So, like, let's say if we're comparing with PSP, OV, and Reborn, like, in PSP, an Octo would just basically be standard beast unit, but does water stuff. So, like, one of its 10 slots is permanently dedicated to Aquaveil, and then usually you're having it throw rocks until it does Poison Rain. In Reborn, the Aquaveil just sort of happens whenever it happens. Typically, you'll use it for, you know, throwing rocks or hitting up close, so it's already got a little bit of variation in that physical and ranged formulas are different. And usually you're using it with Aqua Bubble instead of Poison Rain, just because that long-range breach is very, very good in that version. And then when Vision, they're going to be limited in terms of, like, they can do the physical and ranged attacks due to the fact that they can carry a boulder, they can do regular physical attacks. Their hands actually count as whips, so they can attack diagonally. They can attack from 2 tiles away. They're very good physical fighters right off the get-go, but, like, basically low armor, high health, good physical fighters, kind of like a monk sort, I guess you could say. And then, yeah, if you get them in water, their water moves will just demolish things. Like, an empowered octopus plus Poison Rain is just, like, the thing's basically artillery. Alright, let's see here. Oh, yeah, and as far as Cyclopes go, you know, we can actually just throw one of those in the team for this one. Why not? Just for the sake of comparison, we'll go ahead and throw this guy in there. But yeah, again, it depends. Cyclopes are generally more of like a more physical caster source, generally relying on bulk to get the job done. Anyway, let's see here. So is the Golem good in OV? I'm a Reborn player, and that version of the Golem was pretty sad. In Reborn, they were some of the best for spamming stun. Their casting abilities were kind of crappy, but nothing quite spam stun like if you got them some auto cards. But yeah, no, they're pretty alright. Oh no, wait, I'm thinking Cyclopes. Sorry, I'm mixing up Cyclopes and Golems, and dang it. Sorry. Okay, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, you are talking about Golem. Yeah, no, Golem. Okay, I should have incorporated the Golem in this team then. Sorry. But yeah, no, as far as the Golem goes, they are excellent in OV. Pretty much a perfect debuff lightning rod. Like, if you get them to the front, you get them their Gorgon Lock, they will sit there eating basically just redundant debuffs over and over and over and over and over. It's just great. So they're basically the best lightning rod in the game. As far as their other roles, though, they can vary quite a bit. So they go by a sort of like core system, as they call it. So depending on what kind of core you have equipped in your Golem, they will function very differently. So, like, instead of the various different metal types, which never really did what you kind of thought they would do in the official versions, the way that the Golems work in this one is, like, let's say you give them a power core, now they can hit a hell of a lot harder with their big sweeping AoE earth attacks. Let's say you give them a hardcore, it'll make them very, very good at being a physical tank. You give them a void core, they're good at absorbing magic damage. You give them a anima core, they're suddenly very accurate. They don't have any way of boosting their ranged kind of throne rock accuracy, but they're just going to be a solid tank overall. Some of the best as far as area denial goes, and in general, like, their whole thing is being a lightning rod. So, like, let's say, you know how I mentioned before that the AI, well, got technically improved? So they're one of the more obvious kind of answers to that. Where their resistance to everything, their speed, their evasion, everything else is so low that if you put them in the front with Gorgon Lock, pretty much all damage completely bounces off them, and they will again just waste turns because every spell that flies their way, like let's say somebody hits them with a stun stagger, okay, all well and good. Then somebody else hits them with let's say a slow, okay, all well and good. Then suddenly they're hit with a stop, they're hit with a bind, they're hit with a shackle, they're they're hit with a petrify, they're hit with with a poison, then they're hit with a petrify, and you'll notice about half those debuffs counteract each other. So you're now in a position that they're essentially having debuffs that are constantly bouncing off each other in different directions, just like going and replacing each other's debuffs, and that's really useful. So yeah, pretty darn good. Here, let's maybe move you about here-ish. Have you do the old whippy thing. Yeah, Octopi are pretty accurate as far as beast units go, and pretty darn useful at hitting things at range. Okie doke, let's see. Let's see, they're one of the best in Reborn. While in Ovi, they can no longer create their water. There's an increased playoff in playing to their strengths. Yeah, and that's the thing, though. They're still deceptively strong. Like, they're actually really good physical fighters. Kind of like I guess you could say, again, high health, low armor Skirmisher build. It's kind of already built in. Like, if you were to combine a whip and a short bow, that would more or less be their situation. Anyways, for the time being, though, I wasn't planning on using Ravenous for this one, because I already have a sort of generic Ravenous, and I don't really have any kind of waste or replacer, so I think rip Ravenous. But we'll see how that goes. Also, I believe you have some MP. Gimme. Let's go ahead and eat your MP. Why not? And you go this way. Go here. Okay. Let's see. It's it's like Ogre Battle March. Octopi were insane in water. That they are. Also, hi there to Stones. Long time no see. And so you're just tuning in while working late tonight. How's everything? A little bit chaotic and stuff like that. You know, wife's on a bit of a trip for a little bit, so kind of a day of dealing with insane amounts of chaos. And we had like every possible schedule thing kind of landing all at once. So every single day is just full of stuff and full of stuff and full of stuff. So definitely been a bit of a thing. But either way, so far so good. Yeah, get to do some OV today, so that's pretty darn fantastic. Let's see, Hardcore Golem never fails to amuse me. Yep. It's pretty good. Sounds like a bad name? Yeah, dude, it totally does. So you just realized the land octopus in OV is more or less what it wishes it was in KWell? Oh, yeah. And it's funny. I wanted to use that stupid thing so often. There are so many cases that I just went straight into a Knight of Lotus run of like, I'm totally going to use it again this time, totally going to use it, totally going to use it, and then it just like drops off immediately. Just aquatic units in Knight of Lotus suffer so badly. You just gotta feel bad for them, because like at every possible turn, like they just get shafted. By the time you finally find water for them to make use of their water abilities, the entire map freezes over. See, chaos is how we know we're alive. Exactly. See, wife away Ogre Battle Day. Fair enough. But yeah, lots of stuff to get done at once, but that's how you know that. See, that's one of those nice little confidence booster kind of things. Like, you always wonder how you'd handle chaos until you gotta handle it, and then suddenly you realize, hey, you know what? I got this. Okay, anyway. So, let's see, nothing valuable. Are we talking about KOL? I'm gonna assume we're talking about KOL, and that was just iffy timing. Okay, let's see. I give her silence, because Yuri wants to get rid of that silence. She's also kind of serving as a distraction here. I'm kind of blatantly running them straight into the front here. They're going to serve as a distraction. Eventually we'll just recruit some replacements. It occurs to me, didn't I just shelf all... No, I have my skeleton. I have my recruitment skeleton. We're all good. We already have Ravenous at home. Yeah, exactly. We have Duracell Sydney. See, copying is saving his TP for moments like these. I guess so. I guess so. But yeah, no, yeah. But yeah, I figure we don't have Thunder God Sid, so we got, well, because of naming limitations, she's D-Cell Sydney, but Duracell Sydney. But okay, let's go ahead and do that. You go over here. And continue throwing rocks at stuff. Now, one other thing that's worth mentioning is as far as their skills go, they still actually can use one of their abilities outside of water, which is Black Mucus. And that's a 60% chance of slow and stagger, I believe. So yeah, that's actually surprisingly oppressive once it gets rolling. So there's that. That was pretty solid. Made some nice generic black coffee. Stuff's pretty alright. Now, let's see. You go here. See, are there any recommended PPS, PP graphics settings for mobile? My phone runs XCOM 2 just fine, but really slows down when casting an ISO wave for some reason. Could be a video idea if it's too long. Part of that just depends on devices. Usually, the things that end up helping out folks the most, so anything you have set to auto, just pick one. Because sometimes a lot of its modes, whenever it switches between doing different things, tend to cause it to freak out and lag under certain events. So if you have anything that says automatic, just pick one. Pick one that looks nicer, and that's it. Also, the speed hacks do not actually speed anything up as far as that stuff is concerned, so turn off the speed hacks. And that should more or less help in most cases. Again, there will be exceptions, there will be edge cases, but that's generally what ends up getting the job done. Let's see, you're asleep. Then just throw a rock onto this one, I suppose. But yeah, Cyclopes, they're kind of interesting in this one. It's like they're a nice little cozy mix of like what would be sort of a classic Terror Knight and Spellcaster at the same time. When they work well, they work very well. Like, obviously, they're due to being an extreme hybrid, they're going to be missing out in a lot of situations, but if you get the right buffs going for them, they're really strong. Also, one more thing that's definitely worth mentioning about OV is when it comes to buffs, any buff that requires a weapon to be activated is actually allowed for beast units. That's actually one thing that the official versions couldn't do, because officially they weren't carrying a weapon. So in OV's case, because they've kind of been reprogrammed to have a sort of weapon quietly built into them, whether it's the throwing boulders they carry around or even just their physical hand slaps and stuff like that, they do properly count for having a weapon. So like if you wanted to, let's say, have them use instills or resonances for the purpose of boosting their weapon abilities, they can do that. And also it helps them train faster, so that's also nice. So like, let's say you got Petra Breath, so you're trying to work on your Aug Dark, on, let's say, your Cockatrice or something like that, you can have them use Instill Dark for the purposes of, well, training up their Aug Dark, so that's nice. Also, let's see, I could probably use a little bit of Cleanse action, or Purify action over there. It's funny, I always want to call it either Cleanse or Quench, but it's neither of those things. It's Purify now. Alright, there we go. They're all good to go. Probably... what kind of buffs do we have in hand here? Sure, we got at least something ready to go. Strengthen? Sure. Give everybody a mass strengthen. Also, this isn't going to work for our skeleton, but he's already strengthened anyway, so that's fine. Actually, one funny thing is I believe this actually potentially bypasses that particular ability in Reborn, if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, no, I think it actually healed undead, that was the thing. It's funny, they changed a lot of very oddly specific things in Reborn. Like whether certain things bypass certain kind of defensive states or not, or things like the sort of like heavy category being removed. So, like, let's say in One Vision and PSP, if you land a crit against a heavy unit, like, you know, any beast unit or whatever else, you can't knock it backwards, unless the thing doing the hit happens to be of a similar size. Which kind of makes sense, but it's also never really detailed anywhere, so it's kind of weird that that's just kind of like a hidden rule there. Anyways, in this case, you usually just internalize it, and that works out well enough. Anyway, go ahead and have our Wizard Hunter do his wizard hunting thing. Do that, and he did not fall asleep. And that's a bummer. Oh well. Oh well. Now, what's next? Alright, you can probably slow down all of these three. So this is what I mean by a black mucus. Oh, no, wait, you're not the one with black mucus. Shoot. That's the rookie one. The rookie has no mucus. Alright, well, you just throw a rock then. Any plans for a Unicorn Overlord stream? About 20 hours in, I assume you're going to teach me all kinds of fun things I didn't catch right now. Yeah, it was on the pile. It was on the pile for ones that I was planning to do. Partially because I'm trying to kind of not lose my whole third shift sleep schedule kind of thing. So I'm trying to kind of like land a sleep schedule somewhere in the middle lately. For whenever, you know, whenever stuff goes back to normal and whatnot, so, you know, we'll see. But yeah, no, as far as Unicorn Overlord goes, that is one of the ones that's on the pile at the moment, because I was looking to redo it some more, because as of the moment, well, I originally did all my videos and streams and stuff off the Switch version, which, yeah, the little adapter thing that I used to record that is not quite so functional at this point, and as a result, ended up getting the PS4 version recently, so yeah, we'd be playing that off the Vita as well. Okay, recruitment skeleton needs to go this way and see about doing more recruiting. 8%, no percent, no percent, okay. At least try. Alright. Didn't roll the 8%. I love how there was like a 3% recruit or something that was rolled during that one speedrun stream. Let's see, forgot to mention, but I'm doing a new OV run on the Vita. Haven't had time lately, but I left off in Chapter 2. Everything feels so good. Yeah, and there's another patch coming soon, too, to help address even more stuff. But yeah, dude, it's in such a good place right now. Like, it's one of these ones that you can just kind of keep on going and keep on going and keep on going, and you just... There's just more and more and more and more and more stuff to love every time. So he decided to forego the Berserk Guts build for a nifty 1HK on Denim for sleep shenanigans. Also very solid. Yeah, it's funny, I almost never run Wizard Denim, and then just randomly decided to run Warlock this time through. And he's just basically like this weird like dodge-centric Warlock sword, just constantly throwing grenades and like parrying with a parrying dagger for one double attack thing, you know, blocking with a sword for the other one. You know, countering with blue lasers and stuff like that. It's just cool. But, you know, just one vision things as you do. It's like, as soon as you start describing stuff, it just gets cooler and cooler with every sentence. But, yeah, no, funnily enough, 1HK sleep shenanigans is what I was going for with this guy originally. And then he just became a sword and dagger guy. But, like, this stupid build literally works on a wing and a prayer. It does not work on a humanoid swordmaster at all. It basically just works because this guy can fly. He's got shoes that specifically prevent his flight ability from being taken away. And specifically has a scout vest for the purpose of letting him get close. If he doesn't get up to 50 TP for steel stamps with his 2 double attacks here, more often than not, his total lack of any defense means that he just basically gets thunder dunked immediately. So he's basically fighting to stay alive the entire time, but it works weirdly well as a scout. So that's fun. You know, Pumpkin Stoffley says that we're going to go ahead and block off that area right over there. Do not question the rule of Pumpkin Stoffleys. Alright, I don't want this guy throwing out any of his AoEs, so we'll go ahead and get some tear gas going over there, and continue on from there. Let's see, what magic do you run with him? Water's my favorite with Warlocks. Currently I am running water on him. So I've done a whole bunch of different ones. Like, I started him off with fire, because, you know, Soul Spark into an instrument was just basically guaranteed charm sniping. From there, I was running Hover Draft. But yeah, no, like, wind is what I had on him for most of the time. This also ended up working out really well because for the level that he wound up, the Cavankino was a air instrument, so that worked out pretty decently. And then I realized I didn't have a quench user on the team, and that was just simply unacceptable. So at that point, I switched him over to water. I have a lightning Valkyrie because I always got to have my best buddy Valkyrie basically. So more or less he gets them soaked. Valkyrie steps in with the lightning zapping, and yeah, just generally good times are had. Here, just go ahead and bulwark up over here, I guess. Yeah, this is gonna be a really bad use case or showcase for this Cyclops here. Because not only is this guy just kind of generally poorly trained, because I haven't used him as much as many of the others, he doesn't have all the spells that he can use, he doesn't have upgrades to his equipment as of yet, hasn't had those in a while, and yeah, in general, that's not the usual performance of a Cyclops, just kind of FYI. He's like in his worst state right now. So, if you don't deserve the Cyclops on their worst day, or something, however that saying goes, anyway, let's go ahead and leave you right there. Let's see, Katana might be one of the best weapon categories with luck, parry, TP removal, and early area sleep. Yeah, no, it's definitely a very solid option. It definitely doesn't cut through armor as well as many other options, but it is what it is. Also, I don't know why the Jack-o'-lantern occasionally just turns out brown. Not sure what's up with that. Let's see. LMAO, Birdman thrives off the thrill of battle. Basically, like, if he doesn't get his numbers, he dead. Like, right now, I don't know if I even want to go after this wizard, because, actually, no, he just barely has enough to get 2 attacks off, so he should hopefully be fine. But normally, he just kind of, like, hangs out in the back row, keeps activating steel stands to keep himself alive. For those that don't know the difference between, like, what would be the sort of natural version of, let's say, Phalanx in this one does different stuff, but details. But yeah, Steel Stance just kind of raises your hard defense value. So it makes it so, like, if you hit a certain threshold, stuff just doesn't target you. That's why it keeps them alive. Let's see, that would be too much at that point. Well, yeah, I mean, again, they all have their benefits. One of the things to remember is that while they do shine very immediately and early, like, as far as crits go, warriors can always guarantee crits on every weapon type, so it's not necessarily that much of a thing. Parry is pretty good, but also it depends on the type that you're using. Yeah, whatever, we're just gonna have him train as Cragfall, I guess. As far as area sleep goes, that one's a bit situational, because it, again, just sort of depends. What do we want to do here? I was thinking to go set up for Grim Dawn, but all right, maybe we will. Maybe we'll still set up for Grim Dawn. Because yeah, no, she's actually a pretty good physical fighter at this point. Whatever. Depends on how this Iron Maiden does. Actually, there we go. She can just double tap this guy. Perfect. She's good at bullying archers, as it were. But yeah, no, so, like, let's say comparing a 1 HK with, like, a sword or something. Like, in the sword's case, they're going to be far better as far as accuracy goes. Their first double hitter could be a pretty massive benefit in the early game. As far as penetration goes, generally they're a little better in that regard. I mean, they are fairly close, to be fair. Let's see, yeah, one of the best things Novi is just how situational everything is. Yes. It thrives in the mentality of it depends. Everything depends! It's like diapers for life. Alright, I think we'll set him up for a Pumpkin Bomb next round. Let's go ahead and leave that right there. Alright, next order of business. That's a bit too much on you. Gonna bounce off of you. Alright, do that. It depends, Coffee, for the past decade. How true that is. How absolutely true that is. Every single video, it depends. Oh my god, no way. But it's true. That's this whole series in a nutshell. It depends for everything. We need It Depends merch. People have been asking me to do some kind of merch thing for a while. I keep saying I will, and then I keep forgetting to. And then I keep hearing these, like, horror stories of people setting up merch stuff, and then, like, nothing arrives for months or something. Alright. Cut, to cut. Do you sleep? You sleep! Yay! Oh, shoot, he's gonna die. Well, nice knowing you, Lambert. You had a good run. Because it all just depends. Tier list is just one category, right? Pretty much. That's what I kept thinking. It's just gonna end up being, like, all S tiers and A tiers. But I think we're gonna just maybe... I don't know, maybe it'll be based off variability or something. I don't know. I feel like in most of those cases, it just sort of comes to me the day of. And hopefully whatever comes to mind is not stupid. Let's see, Counterpoint, is Prince of Zenobia a well-designed game? Anyway, so how about serious questions? I kid, no it isn't. Supposedly it's got some stuff to it, but like... I'm sorry, a strategy game where you can't see your, you can't see the enemy units? What is that? It's strange, that's for sure. Like, one thing that I find funny is, like, even the folks that I've talked to that were kind of looking into the lore of that game and stuff, it's just like, yeah, we'll actually get around to finishing it at some point. Like, oh no, I thought that's where all the lore came from. I thought we knew. The established adult diaper brand. You know, funny story though. A funny story though is like... Actually, wait, hold on. I need to restart the music first of all. Let's go ahead and get that done. Wait. It's immediately switching over to... Yeah, it was immediately trying to switch over to the Kingsbane soundtrack, which, while amazing, is not what we're doing here today. Anyway, so yeah, like, was doing stocking stuff at you know, at the store as you do, and I started noticing that like one of the most convenient things to actually ever do is to go like basically volunteer to go stock adult diapers and stuff. Because, like, okay, so you're stocking shelves, right? And you got to take stuff out of boxes, which is, you know, just fairly standard type of stuff. But what stuff has the biggest boxes that conveniently are exactly the right size if you were to, let's say, tri-fold a box? Like, you fold it 3 ways, right? And then do you just, like, let's say, on your cart, you stack them in a pile? Well, no, they're going to slip sideways. Do you stack them into each other? Well, yeah, kind of, and then you wind up with a bunch of small boxes. But you take one of those adult diaper boxes, you put all that stuff away, and suddenly you got, like, 15 boxes within one box. The stupid shit I get excited about. But still, it's interesting. It's neat, I think. Alright. Now, I don't think they have any clerics left, in which case, kaboom to this one, and also we'll get our very damaged skeleton on the ground, and then hopefully he'll be able to get back up on his feet reasonably soonish. Hopefully nobody exercise him, because he is, again, like the 4th or 5th variant currently of this particular skeleton. That's why he's got basically like 4 weapon skills maxed out at this point, and they all keep dying, but that's just kind of a detail, I suppose. Whatever, just shank this dude, I guess. She's just got the knife to have a knife. I gotta go have a nice evening. Well, you have yourself an awesome one, Drew. You take care. And, yeah, we'll see you when you have a minute. But yeah, the plan is to do as many of these as possible, in the evenings in between. And afternoons, but that's not gonna be tomorrow, because I got, like, friggin' 50 different things to take care of tomorrow. Also, it's Grim Dawn time, so let's see, you're not dead, you're resisting it completely. Yep, one downside of this fencing build here is it's good for dropping fear on stuff, but Mostly it looks cool, but kind of bounces off of things, because there really isn't too much of a intelligence bonus off of this spell. Or rather, this build, I should say. Since she's doing the whole fencing thing, she doesn't really have a gigantic stack of intelligence. If you do go for intelligence, obviously, this will do a lot more, but if you're doing a sword thing, then, you know, it just kind of spooks things occasionally. So it just kind of looks cool. But it is fun, though. Also, one of the nice things is that, yeah, if you've got Iron Maiden ready to go, Fear actually boosts it, so it's kind of a little bit like a mosquito. You're going and opening up the wound for that big bite. It's kind of a gross way to put it, but, you know, it is what it is. Alright. Now, I don't know if... I'm going to say the odds of actually getting to Vyce are pretty limited now that I think about it. Considering that we keep getting distracted talking on long tangents, but you know what? That's part of the fun. So, maybe it'll take a couple of streams. Who knows? But for the moment, Mr. Pumpkin Stoffley's, let's see. You can get over here, which does let you do a pretty big boom, and I just want to see if Fear affects this. So if you exploded here, that would do a lot of friendly fire damage too, but it also would result in 2 KOs. That guy's a decent ways off. Would anyone else be there to help Mr. Bjarne here up on his feet? I don't know, but also boom. Alright. So that's kind of neat. Made that whole thing kind of happen, and thankfully it does not take all of their health, so that's also nice. Alright, so you go there. That also does kind of open up the field a little bit. Potentially allows for a few more options. And we'll see if maybe it's possible to get everything killed off before we actually have to worry about that person bleeding out on the floor over there. So, the archer's gone. There's one terrified soldier left. I guess we should do something about that. And let's see what you can do, because you should have your double attack by this point. Nope, no you don't. You got that, which isn't going to help us out very much. That is even less likely to help. That is somewhat acceptable. Skeletons... That's problematic. Yeah, let me guess. That guy's right there, isn't he? Oh, no. Actually, Lambert might be in time to help us out here. Okay. That being the case, we'll just go ahead and take a nice guaranteed 100% over here. That's the nice thing about overheads. Warlocks do like their guarantees, after all. You, sir, go ahead and go over here, give a little bit of distill life to Mr. Pumpkin Stoffleys, or Miss Pumpkin Stoffleys, I should say, since it is confirmed at this point that all the pumpkins are ladies, it turns out. Despite them potentially being... Come to think of it, okay, that's the weird part, alright? Now, I realize, first of all, that officially this is just a weird gameplay quirk because they're more or less just a variation of fairies, like, as far as the game is concerned, so that's the actual reason. But, like, they were originally dudes, they got their heads chopped off, but, like, also that resulted in them suddenly having lady voices and stuff. I'm thinking there was more than one head chopped off, but anyways. Alright, so get Overload, and that'll be the end of that fight, and then we will leave that topic just kind of right there. You know, as you do. Alright. So that's not good there, that's not good there. And our Bard is still only at 21. It's a work in progress. Yeah, one thing that you want to do if you are using the Class EXP scaling fix is just like, if you're looking to really power level an entire team, you only bring one overleveled unit along. Due to the fact that we've got both Warlock and Heretic here, just kind of sitting around, spreading experience around everywhere, it's kind of leading us to some weird experience averages here. Normally, I like to just run all of these same level, which then throws everything onto the lowest thing very convincingly. So it's like 90% of the experience goes straight to the lowest thing. In this case, it's not quite the case, but okay. Do the war crimes. I wonder what Union's looking like these days. Guess we're about to find out. Alright, so fear no approach. And then we get Cliffside. So for Cliffside, we'll need lots of flyers. This actually should be a pretty good example for bringing the Golem along. So we'll do that. Come to think of it, I actually haven't tested Princess much this time around either. But that one hasn't really seen many changes either. It's basically like heavy armor, divine caster sort. Alright, Pumpkin Softlies, you're getting replaced with Robert, our Flying Knight. Bjarni, you are getting replaced with this one because you constantly get yourself dead. Miles, you will continue doing your mass recruitment. We'll take a couple of zombie griffins. We'll also take our chicken in place of the matriarch. I am also, for the purposes of that tier list there, I'm going to be counting the 2 unique griffins as their own unique class, as like the armored griffin and the crazy griffin. Yeah, I gotta say, I kind of prefer basic griffins to the unique griffins by a pretty decently long shot there. What do you guys think? For the ones that have played One Vision, like as far as the griffins are concerned, like where do you guys go in that? Do you prefer the generics? Do you prefer the Steel Stance Griffin? Do you prefer the Berserk Griffin? Like where are you on that one? Also, do we have any exorcists on this team? Because I don't think so. No. Okay. So it should be an absolutely safe rush for the zombie griffs. Oh, what is that? You know what? Hang on, I will be right back. One quick second here. Okay, and back. Sorry about that. Yeah, our oldest cat was throwing a dramatic hissy fit. I thought he got himself injured or something. Long story short, he was just too lazy to go to his actual food bowl, and he was like, "I need some food that's a little bit closer to me." Anyway, let's see. Last time I got that far into OV, Graham's Griffins were still normal. Yeah, no, he's got two at this point, one of which is a Steel Stance Griffin, the other one is a Berserk Griffin. Basically having Holy and Dark Dragon Breath abilities, which is pretty cool. Like, you know, being able to kind of like sleep spam and dark spam and stuff like that. It's neat, but they got downsides. Like, the regular Griffins are super easy to replace, which means you can play really risky with them. With those ones, you gotta play really safe, and they just have no durability. So, I mean, if you just went full, like, let's say, you know, like you just went all Vit build with them, you played super carefully with them, and then they're just basically your, like, expensive premium Griffin variants. I personally don't really care for that as much as the easily replaceable ones, but they've got their place for sure. Like, more or less, one of them, I forget which one's which, but like the dark one there, the one with the Berserk abilities and whatnot, they could, functionally speaking, be seen as sort of a unique flying Hydra, whereas the other one can be seen as almost like a turbo ninja with wings and sleep abilities. I guess like a weird, like a almost misinterpretation of the ninja in a way. But yeah, no, it's a cool idea. But yeah, one of them just basically kept dying at every possible turn. When I tried to use them like a regular Griffin, I tried switching them over to a more evasive variant, but they didn't really have the evasion to make it work. So that kind of leaves kind of putting them into sort of like a res or a Vit type of situation. But it feels like they require a lot of support, because the whole deal behind Griffins in general is that they have next to nothing going on as far as defenses, but they're really, really fast. So personally, I usually double down on speed and try to make it work that way. But either way, they're different. They're certainly different, but their breaths are better, so that's cool. Let's go ahead and do that. Probably should have gone for the other one, to be honest. That's perfectly fine. Go over here, because yeah, you like zombie Griffins are probably my favorite of this bunch here, because you just get them close, you have them steal some health, they take some hits, they do a little bit of tanking, they get themselves a little bit of TP built up, then they go after the squishies at extreme speed, and then it's just a good time for them. Here, let's go ahead and probably put you up here as a distraction, I guess. That'll do. Peck away at this one. As you can see, like, their dodging basically doesn't exist, but they are able to move very, very fast. So, like, the Cockatrice in particular, I think is probably my favorite flyer, just because it's kind of the best of all of the above. They're fairly easy to replace in bulk. They have a move that basically just completely disables stuff if it lands its roll. They've got extreme speed and bulk. Their defenses basically don't exist, but still, like, it's more than enough to get the job done. Also, night there, Sam. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Did I remember to say that? I don't know. But yeah, have yourself a good call tomorrow, and I will see you then. But well, actually, won't see you then. That'd be kind of weird if I did. But alrighty. Yeah, no, as far as flyers go, like, again, all the birds are going to be extremely fast. Beast units in general are really fast, and especially, again, you'll notice the Cockatrice getting turns over and over and over, because Void Ring is, like, just really good. But yeah, as far as Griffins go, the way that I usually find them most useful is you just kind of play relatively risky with them, but then if they get knocked out, you can then also bring them back with Living Dead, and seeing as it's pretty easy to bring somebody back from being a zombie, you can just repeatedly do this over and over to bring them back and then get them right back in the fight, if there's Exorcist. If there isn't, then you simply just kind of let them run out their timer, and with Void Rings, those timers can oftentimes be as quick as well, more or less everybody else's single turn. So, it's very good stuff there. Anyway, you go ahead and eat some MP. There we go. But yeah, they can be very quick. Like, these two zombie griffs have been around for a decently long time, and they've got a pretty solid amount of punch behind them, and if you've got something like Bloodbath on hand, what you do is you have them isolate whatever exorcists are out there wherever they happen to be. You batter down those exorcists, repeatedly use Bloodbath to keep them nice and stocked up. And yeah, once they're gone, like, they're basically untouchable, so they're good to go. Now, this doesn't get as extreme as it does in Reborn, where they kind of forgot to exorcism most of the time, but this does still help quite a decent bit. Yeah, nothing that's poisoned right now. You just need to be activating your shoes, though. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. Probably the mental fatigue, that's why. Bit of a long day, but still wanted to do some One Vision tonight. So there we go. And yeah, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to go ahead and do it. That is the entire point of this whole thing here today. I'm just trying to ask more questions about One Vision and get more folks kind of understanding in general what it is and what it does, what it eats. I don't know. Whatever it supposedly eats, which is, I guess, mostly just button presses. It survives entirely off of your hands. Alright. Now, there really shouldn't be anything in these particular fights, but I think there was one other kind of a foot item that we should be seeing relatively soonish here. See, what's your favorite TK build these days? I like to call it the Cobra. That's the what I've got on my my current last TK on the team. This guy was actually previously a TK and then got promoted into an Angel Knight, which, by the way, I didn't realize at the time. But yeah, Felt Seal actually serves as a double tap attack at this point. But like, I like to call it the Cobra because it's just like Whip plus Terra Knight, relatively lightweight weapon, right? Good attacking range means that they can get in from weird angles. But let's say, since Lament of the Dead got reworked, they kind of had this extra benefit where, let's say, they get in close to something, right? They turn on Fearful Impact. So we've got, what the hell is going on there again? Oh, that's a cat in the litter box. So, like, let's say they got their Fearful Impact, right? So you got False Strike on the whip, you got Fearful Impact from the whip itself. They go in and they step close, they do a Lament of the Dead, and they also throw out a decay. So you've got Weaken, you've got Poison, you've got Breach, you've got False Strike, you've got Fear, you've got a Weaken again in case it missed the other time. You've got Curse, and yeah, it just, like, it keeps on stacking and stacking and stacking. It's just this deluge of debuffs. So I love that. But yeah, due to the awkward kind of diagonal attack that they've got on hand, this just kind of generally lets them kind of pick their fights, as it were. Oftentimes setting up to take those fearful impacts whenever needed, but also one of those little quiet buffs they got next to a lot of the other ones is just the fact that the Fearful itself is one of the cheaper activation abilities. So, like, next to, let's say, next to something like Fated Circle, they have one of the cheapest guaranteed attacks that there is, which means that for any, let's say, longer range attacks like they've got, they can, well, guarantee that thing, and that's pretty handy. So, yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. And they have good hit odds with Decay. It's pretty decent, like, especially against other tanks. Like, tanks are usually where you want to be using Decay on anyway, and against tanks, they've got next to no avoidance, so what the hell are they going to do about it? So, like, yeah, they're already in a pretty good position there. But yeah, we'll work them in next fight just to show what I mean there. They also, just like many other units, will typically kind of get online by the time they get to around turn 2 or 3. But yeah, once they get going, they can, with careful TP usage, they can be very consistent. So yeah, definitely one of my favorites at this point too. Yeah, Tear Gas you. Nothing quite as versatile as the Valken Warlock, but still pretty good. All right. smack this one around. But this is what the Power Fist was for originally, before it got accidentally way overbuffed. But like the Power Fist was supposed to be if this guy's sword can't hit because his accuracy is terrible. Like he originally used the sword to try and overcome his terrible accuracy, and then over time I switched him over to a heavy shield, which eventually became the Power Fist. Just so he can get close and then just like and then trap it and then just beat the hell out of it. It's kind of the knight's whole deal there, that he gets his flight item. He gets within other formations just like the birds do, but he ends up kind of trapping stuff in with him and then just kind of wailing on him. Let's see. Griffins refilling their HP by eating mages, a tale as old as time. Beauty and the Feast. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, no, birds eat wizards, what can I say? Especially when they're zombies. Let's see, probably no biggie tossing a spell strike item with Valk. Also true. Also true. For every problem, there's a Valk ability to solve it. Alright, you're just gonna barely survive that, except for that part where you didn't. Well, good to know that recruit went well. It's okay. The talkative skeleton is gonna get himself a new buddy in a moment. Okay. Also, funnily enough, in a weird roundabout way, when I was going and playing around with different abilities and whatnot, different gear, there was a funny thing that happened to line up, because I was looking for something unique to use on my Angel Knight, and then it turns out that the Worm Scale happened to pretty uniquely fit the way that he was flying around all the time, so I accidentally decided to do the whole Dragon Slayer, but it's an angel thing from Reborn again. Accidentally just basically made the same thing that I was making over there a second time, just because it kind of worked really well in this context too, since Dragon Scale stuff is unique at this point, so there's that. Also, since they are griffins, we're just going to have you not do that, because you'll actually just end up dead, but he does need Feather Step, so if we just wait our turn, he'll be able to act in a few seconds, and that'll work decently well enough. Anyway, now they can move on to eating this archer over here. Again, as one does. The other dude that just already took his turn will be taking his turn again in just a moment. Also, one thing I also want to point out about the kind of like cockatrice griffin whole situation there. Oh wait, shoot, that's not the one. I meant to use Papillon Reel. Okay, so one thing that's kind of interesting is, again, comparing all their different abilities. Like, even if you take the unique variants of the Griffin, like, they're good, but, like, let's say they use their Sleep Breath, or their big, splashy Sleep Breath, and they put something to sleep. Okay, all well and good, but they don't necessarily have a follow-up for that. The cool thing about the cockatrice is that, like, they can just petrify something and then just immediately lock into that particular thing. So, like, they petrify it, and then they just sit behind it. And that's all they need. Like, as soon as they roll a petrify, they just sit there, they peck, they get, like, 6 turns in a row to go peck the thing to death. And it has no recourse, because, petrification and such. Which means that if you've got a couple of them just kind of mass deleting things in general, it tends to be pretty awesome. Okay. Go recruit you. 10%. How about that? He's gonna go get back the lady that he just put to sleep. But yeah, you can just kind of sit there and just keep pecking and pecking and pecking and pecking, and most of the time, you can get things taken out from a full health bar before they even have a chance to actually reply in any meaningful way. And that's pretty darn good. Alright. Flight fades, but you need to get up there to the archer, so you fly again. So why was Sherry so good when I first played Tactics Ogre Reborn? I didn't use summons for the longest time. Just stat bonus. All the Ferena sisters get a stat bonus. I always just called it pretty privilege, but basically any unique characters got some amount of stat bonus to some degree, and usually that stuff feels pretty special when you first get it, because it's usually a good bit, more than you're maybe used to at that time. So, like, let's say when you get the White Knights for the first time, it feels like they're these absolute giga tanks, and the White Knight's just going to go dominate everything, but realistically, they just got, like, a few extra stat points, and everybody else is going to catch up relatively quick, So by the time you're in the post game, they're doing the same damage as everybody else, but it felt at the time like they were doing more, and it's mostly because stuff gets diluted over time. So like, the 10, 15, whatever stats that they get extra at the time that you got them, they matter quite a bit when everyone's stats are in like the 100 to 150 range, and then once everybody's at 300, you don't even notice it anymore. So again, it all just kind of dilutes over time. But yeah, as far as Sherry and stuff goes, she just has good int for the time, and then that changes over time as well. So we'll go ahead and throw this one out there. But yeah, just like I was talking earlier with the summons, it's like a lot of times we'll just kind of get stuck on the first thing that we used, and kind of get tunnel visioned into that being the particular thing. And hell, even in other cases, like let's say there's a lot of cases where, like in Reborn, they'll actually roll random stats when you get them, and sometimes they'll be very good, sometimes they'll be very bad. Again, over time, it just completely ends up balancing out, but sometimes somebody just got a version of Sherry that, let's say, just had freakishly high int or something, and like that was it. That's going to color their opinion going forward. The next one is going to be dramatically worse. Maybe they were already dramatically worse at something and they didn't even notice. But with a game that has this many moving parts, like a lot of times first impressions are really going to be all that matters. But I hope that makes sense. Alright, so next, let's see. I don't know where we might be able to get a good angle on this guy. Maybe we'll just go over here. We'll go ahead and just have her chew a leaf. And then go from there. Alright. Head over in this direction. Nothing to use there. Okay, whatever. You just sit still for the time being. You go ahead and collect your card. Whenever the night guy gets his turn, then we'll be able to go and get Yuria back on her feet. This guy can throw rocks, and there's still actually a decent chance he'll miss, but at least we can try hitting this guy. See if we can get something going on him. Does he possibly seem like a luck thing as well? Well, is she just like critting a whole bunch? Is that what the deal was? Like, I guess I probably should have asked earlier, but better in which way? What are we talking about there? Let's acid rain you. That'll get her out of the picture. Probably have Angel Knight go trade himself for the chicken so that the chicken can get back to pecking. Maybe we don't even need to. Actually, no, we probably do need to, because chicken's currently blocking the tile that we need. So that's no good. Alright, Mr. Angel, make it happen. Unless, by any chance... no, that won't be enough. Alright. Lifeline it is. But yeah, actually, come to think of it, as a bit of an example, like let's say the first time that I ended up getting Deneb in Tor, she ended up being like freakishly good. Pretty much immediately got eaten by a chicken though, and then the replacement version was dramatically worse. In that particular case, I think she ended up getting a lot more Vit than she did Intelligence. But again, ultimately, it's usually just going to be down to first impressions. Like, when it comes to, especially stuff like Shamans and Tor, oftentimes, like, after we did that much to go get a hold of the class, like, we kind of want to see something good out of it, I feel. Oh yeah, we finally get a chance to use the summons. Alright, this is probably going to kill our chicken, too, but yeah, I love how the summons basically feel like just they're properly coming down from the sky in this one. But, anyway. Usually it looks a bit more impressive in maps where they're a bit more flat. It's the Enchant Glass Cannon that did not break. Don't know. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's something else. Hard to say. Alright. Sir, go on your way. You, man, go on your way as well. I know, if we had a units turned down counter, I feel like its number would be freakishly high at this point. Okay, go ahead and save it right here. Alright. Then we get to the nice, happy justification hallway over here. Place. Let's see. What does he have? Fairies, got some wizard, got some ninjas. I don't remember if he's got clerics. But I'm thinking we replace the chickens with octopi here. Or the birds with octopi, rather. Chicken can stay. Lambert, let's go ahead and replace you with an archer. We'll want one of those here. Knights are fine enough. Mr. Miles, why don't we replace you with a shaman? There we go. Or at least, or actually not the shaman, what am I saying? That isn't the shaman, there is a shaman, but not that shaman. Okay. But yeah, no, what's funny is yeah, once you get to the point that you're using both shamans and liches in Tor, as far as stats go, they kind of meld together. Again, it all just kind of averages out. But the funny part is, if you compare, let's say, a lich with a shaman, in the case of the shamans, it's oftentimes going to be difficult to actually get the most of all of their growths and such. That they're kind of in this weird position that you get most of them later on in levels, whereas if you just like go recruit a lich in the wild, it will assume that it got all of its levels as that lich, so it'll just be completely min-maxed in the direction that you kind of wanted to go there. In the sort of like glass cannon direction, as it were. So, if you end up getting a hold of one of those, oftentimes they will seemingly hit harder. As far as the summons and such go, though, again, that's kind of like their whole bread and butter. If they can't do summons, they're more or less just like a regular caster. I remember like when Tor first came out, I didn't really get what all the friggin' hype was about. So I'm like, they just kind of do the casting thing. It's like, why is everyone so excited? They're just doing regular casts. Like they don't even have a lot of the abilities that they're supposed to have yet, because all the like nature powers and stuff like that are actually in the post game. But yeah, no, again, it's like after you go through all that, you kind of just get in this headspace of like, this had to have been worth it. At least I think that's why oftentimes it felt that way. But either way, they're alright. They don't really have much in the way of debuffs, though. That's kind of the thing, though. That, like if they can't immediately overwhelm something, they have all the flexibility of just a friggin' brick, you know. It's like, yeah, the brick's good at throwing things, but if you want it to have other purposes, maybe it doesn't have that. So it could be a problem. All right. So just keep throwing in that direction. You keep doing the flappy thing. Alright. Also, I love one of the changes that OV made to the Brynhilder, the Aura Heal ability specifically. So instead of having any offensive abilities or resurrection abilities or whatever else, which, by the way, I love that Reborn gave it resurrection because, you know, it's supposed to literally cut its way through hell. It makes sense that it should be able to resurrect. But the Aura Heal ability in particular makes it a really uniquely good kind of, I guess you could say, assault weapon in this case. Seeing as Aura Heal is basically, it's kind of like an improved version of Harvest Dance in that it prevents that healing from reaching any enemies. So either way, very useful thing. It's like kind of using two Harvest Dance at once, but it makes it so that it's really good at charging ahead with stuff. So it's kind of uniquely in that sort of poster boy role as far as weapons go. So that's nice. Actually, wait a minute. Didn't she have a throwing item? Yes, she does have a throwing item ability. I knew it! Throw an item to this chicken. There you go. It lives. It lives again. Alright, now we see about petrifying these two. Alright. Petrify them. Alright, let's see, gotta head to sleep. Exhausted. I'll catch the rest of this with morning coffee tomorrow. Want to ask what your favorite OV combos are, whether it's 3-man mini teams or just equips, so hope you have a good night. So, as far as favorite combos go, and by the way, this probably will not last terribly terribly much longer, because I really got to get some sleep for tomorrow as well, but I just really wanted to do one of these tonight. And still had some coffee in a cup, so yeah, and then added more coffee on top of that coffee. There's a lot of extra coffee. Anyway, but as far as combos go, generally speaking, I usually just kind of mix and match individual combos depending on the situation. But probably the most satisfying one so far has been like Vartan and Valk. So like with the Vartan and Valkyrie, you can have them use their burst abilities over and over to get their different averses going. But both of them are very good at surviving in the front. So you can just kind of have the two of them repeatedly like fly back against each other. One of them does a burst, the other one does a burst, the other one does a burst, and they just keep kind of mining their way through an entire location that way. So it feels pretty good doing that. Now, the cool thing is you can also combine in other effects with that as well. So, like, let's say with a Vartan, you have them do their water abilities, give them a lightning averse, and then let's say you use that lightning averse to use their driving cut, which is the lightning element, and improve that with a full TP bar. Or let's say, again, with that Valk thing, this is assuming, like in my case, the Valk happens to be a lightning version. But like, let's say you need to kind of throttle up the damage there a little bit to get a bit more power out of it, then you can just kind of go for missiles, which are really good at penetrating at this point. So, this means that potentially, like, let's say there's some healing in the back and you needed that to be moved away somewhere. Let's say you set some water out there, and let's say, again, you're trying to get access to the healer, right? So let's say you have your Vartan fly back there, they use a burst, that burst is not going to miss, and then they happen to, let's say, get turned around because they cornered an archer, and oftentimes archers will like to use their blindside ability in melee range because it doesn't take much time to use, hoping that they'll be able to take a shot next round, right? So let's say you put him in that position that he ends up countering then with his attack there. The unit ends up facing another way. It allows you to follow up with another missile ability, potentially lowering them down to like 10% health or something, and then you just leave them there. The healer that was previously healing the leader ends up moving backwards, and just kind of leaves everybody else nice and exposed because they were trying to save the wrong person there. So that stuff works pretty neat, and I like it. So, yeah. That about sums up that situation. That there's a lot of ways that those averses can potentially be sort of twisted to accomplish a lot of different things. Also, really liked that kind of Dragon Slayer combination with the Angel Knight and a regular Dragoon. Just the two of them happen to have just enough to be able to kind of like pincer a lot of different things, so that just sort of generally feels good to accomplish. Another kind of random one that I really like here is just books in general with the Oracle here. Now this can be done obviously with other stuff, but yeah, the racial abilities on like a 2-book user here can be really, really strong. And in her case, since she's coming in with a bunch of solid casting stats right at the very start, since she can make herself functionally invincible, she can just completely stack for intelligence, set up something like Ivory Tower, and then just absolutely bully Lizard with 2 stacked, herpetology books. So, I don't know if you'd necessarily call that a combo, but it does feel very combo-esque, you know? Let's see, Stun Fist plus recruiting, just generally a fun time. Just you get an Aegis, I suppose. I keep forgetting that he doesn't have his recruit at the moment because that's what his build was originally for. Oh yeah, I forgot to bring in the Terror Knight here. That's a shame. Oh well, oh well. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, regular archer, so like longbow archer, along with a fairy archer, who I do not currently have on this thing right now. Reason being, the speed. So like, I mentioned before that Olivia does not use a lot of the archer abilities because she's basically a speed shooter. So like, in her case, she doesn't use stuff like Tremendous Shot or Double Shot or whatever else because it allows her to fire more often, allows her to take her turns more often. So like, let's say we put debuffs on her arrows. And this allows for again, just kind of like rapid firing things, but if you also get a fairy archer, who then also implements the same thing I was talking about with those racial books. It's like a familiar can use bows, a familiar can also use spell books. Use the spell book in the main slot, you get access to some important stats that they generally need, since bows don't generally give you stats that often, or at least not like extra stats and such. But the kind of speed of sorry, I'm explaining this weird because I should definitely get some sleep. But the archer, without using any abilities, is kind of medium speed, I would say, in general, because bows take a little bit of a while to aim and fire. Whereas the fairy over here does have very... Actually, come to think of it, between the two of them, they have exactly the same recovery time. What am I saying? But the silver arch, let's say, 32 recovery time on that thing, whereas the longbow over here is 48. This means that the two of them can oftentimes find themselves in a position that they are consistently firing over and over and over and over and over very quickly, just due to that slight recovery time difference, but they always are just close enough to each other that it always feels like they're able to catch up with each other, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. But it gives them a very nice, consistently quick firing pattern there. So we'll go ahead and save right there, and then show what I mean in this next fight. We'll leave the octopi. We'll go ahead and replace you with... Actually, come to think of it, let's go for 3 ranged attackers. Why not? Let's replace you with that fairy from before, and let's see, knight. Why don't we replace you with the Terror Knight? Just kind of show that whole situation here. And, yeah, then we're good to go. I think maybe replace the chicken with a... I haven't been using a healer much this time. Maybe I probably should. What do I want to do with you? This one's a cleric one, if I recall. Actually, let's go ahead and throw a dragoon in here, because I think they might have some beast units, if I recall. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to show what I mean here. Like, as far as combos go, if you throw in a bunch of variable ranged weapons, like, instead of all going for individual volleys and such, due to the sort of chaotic nature of how turns can end up landing all over the dang place, just that kind of interspersed sort of randomness of all kinds of different ranged weapons at all different times can keep you consistently firing, which means that you can constantly put pressure where you want to, instead of just hoping that you achieve the one-shot kill there, you know? So being able to consistently lay down fire just like all over the place, almost in a kind of like a spray pattern, can oftentimes be worth a decent bit more than, let's say, just simply aiming for one guy at the same time, because if they, like, let's say they happen to have more armor than you're expecting, a lot of those light archers are just going to bounce off. If they, let's say, get knocked out of range, then you have another problem there. But you get a lot of extra flexibility by varying up the sort of speeds of your archers, if that makes sense. Not like it's the only way, but to me that feels very useful. So especially for stuff like dealing with monster units and whatnot, which can tend to build up TP very quickly, it allows you to manage things a little bit better. So, like, knowing if you need to go use like a frostbite or a corrosion or whatever else to go prevent one of them from attacking. If you take a bunch of quick shots and you can't quite get that kill achieved, then you at least know kind of how you need to maybe adapt to that situation. Again, you know, sometimes you would prefer that the piece is taken off the board entirely. Sometimes you prefer that they're, let's say, being used for the purpose of distracting healers, or maybe for the purpose of just making them waste time or whatever else. There's a lot of different reasons you might do something. But I'm just going to leave that there, I suppose. Alright. You go there, you go there. Like I've mentioned him a million times before, but this is a javelin thrower guy. His whole job is just to keep stuff out of the fight. He throws javelins, has a bash effect on there, and he just kind of knocks him back a little bit, you know? Just kind of prevents stuff from getting close, and any turns lost could potentially be turns that end up saving you later, so just generally good stuff. Right. Take position right there. This one's nice and isolated. And with this guy getting sniped, so we'll just go ahead and activate an Eagle Eye. I probably should have activated that beforehand, but it's fine. Okay, over here, currently do nothing. You also go over here, currently also do nothing. We take away their octopi, substitute our own, hopefully get some of those nice big meaty laser abilities going, and that should look pretty alright. And then I'm thinking right after this fight, that's probably when it's probably time to call it for the night. Because it is definitely getting a little bit on the late side, you know? Okay. So then Archer threw herself in the water, no big deal. We'll just go ahead and poison her for the time being. They do have clerics and such, but if you can get one of their nice squishies, nice and poison and whatnot, they will consistently keep focusing on that instead of doing something more useful. So she's going to go ahead and get the heal 2, and that's one of those things you want to prevent. It's hard to prevent a heal 1, a heal 2, though, is definitely preventable. It's just a matter of getting there. Okay. So, in this case, we've got 2 heavies right there. Thinking what we maybe do is just fixate one of them, because I don't want this one moving away. So the nice thing about Terror Knights is even if they don't have a Spell Strike active, they can still be pretty solid about keeping the units that they actually want to bully in place. They're very good against things like Octopi, they're very good against things like tanks and whatnot. They're a nice tank breaker, even in cases where they don't necessarily have the kind of right weapons to break a tank in the normal sense. Alright, a little double tap on use, looking pretty decent. Got slowed, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's fine. Go ahead and get this guy into position to help him out there a little bit. Nice thing, though, is, like, even though Terror Knights always look like they're going to end up losing a bit too much health to keep going, you'll regularly notice that they have a pretty meaty health pool if you give them solid armor. Right. Just keep hobbling. There we go. These ones need a strengthen bonus, so we'll go ahead and make a lion dance happen. And that's the other thing with having a bunch of varied kind of units strengthened up all over the place. One unit hitting a little bit harder, all well and good, but if you can buff them all at the same time, that might, you know, be nicer. Maybe. Maybe not. Let's go ahead and activate his ring, have him go hover over the water, and go deal with these octopi. And you go here. He's not going to activate a skill as of yet, because there's nothing that it's going to really do for him yet. Silver Archer there. Almost done. I think this one might just be within range to make that happen. Bummer. Okay. Oh well, these things happen every now and then. And then you... Let's see, you've got an Aqua Bubble right there. Let's just try and do one of these, because it's kind of up there. Alright. See, it feels like blocking a boulder would still hurt. I mean, certainly would think so. I think it's still one of the funnier things to me about if you ever do a counter build in Reborn, how Juggernauts will counter with a throwing boulder. See, then again, OB64 dragons block swords with their foreheads and take no damage. I mean, they got that like little wingy thing. I guess they got a hard skull or whatever. How the birds do that and not break their beak, I don't know, but maybe they had them metally augmented at some point. Okay. Oh, Mistfire, yeah, that would make sense. Although, conveniently, that also gives a nice little counterpoint here as well. So what we're actually going to do... Let's see, is that going to be enough? She's got 5, yeah, no. I was going to say she can just go use Agony as a quick little gotcha out of that situation, because that's a guaranteed, like, instant half a health bar worth of damage, but, it's not necessary. She's only got 5 left anyway. Alright. An Aqua Bubble there. Fair enough. Alright, a little bit of a stalemate. They're starting to gain some advantage, just due to healing shenanigans, but we're actually just about in position to make a big breakthrough here. Also, should have mentioned earlier, but also nice to see their Veil. Alright, one Archer shot over there. That's one broken through. Although Kasha probably could have done some shenanigans, I would prefer if she just kind of gets on with the mission that she needs to be doing here. Which is kind of bullying everybody else. Right. Pain side over in that direction. That's him mostly gone. That should be where all the healing focus is next. Unless the fairy can finish him, which is also pretty likely. That's a shame. Alright. Let's see, I think... Yeah, okay, we're good there. He's got the remedy. Go ahead and feed him a little bit of healing here. Let's see. So yeah, I like these late night streams, nocturnal these days, so watching making lunch before writing all night. It's nice to watch a live stream while cooking. Well, glad to help as much as possible. Currently, like I'm trying to trying to figure out a balance between sort of keeping my third shift sort of brain going and also trying to still do stuff throughout the entirety of the day. So just kind of staying up a little bit, but not much. It's a weirdly kind of halfway, totally non-committal way of doing this whole thing, but either way. But yeah, we'll be going to bed relatively soonish for, you know, reasons of tomorrow is going to be friggin' crazy, but oh well. That's tomorrow, not today. Go ahead and fell seal this guy. And stab a wizard, as you do. Now, it's not going to really do very much against that wizard, but it does help. Okay, so we got those two octopi over there. Now, what I was saying earlier, as far as as far as this guy goes, right? So you get close to something. Ideally, you would have a few other options available here. Like ideally, would prefer a like a wormhole or a decay in this particular case. We'll use palsy skin as an example. So that would end up being like 273%. That would end up getting them, and then you would end up going in with something else. However, there's also an Armageddon that's already charged up, so we'll just go ahead and launch that thing out right now. Because he is working on his Augment Dark right now, so there we go. Armageddon still remains fantastic. Now you've got this right here. Let's go ahead and do one of these things. Get the Beast Slayer going. Get the crossbow going. Do the pew-pews and barrel, and he's basically toast. Unless a healer were to conveniently be on the opposite team and just sort of step in and, well, that won't really happen because, you know, friggin' javelins to the face and such. As that thing was flying through the air, I kept thinking, like, man, I should have activated Trajectory. What a stupid thing. But now Trajectory is activated for next time, so it's a slightly less stupid thing. Alright, I feel like Fell Seal as a verb should mean drown in a puddle. That's weird. Like, it's like, what, somebody falls down and just gets their face stuck in in a drain? I mean, it's accurate, but man. Dark. Just like, it's making me think of, like, whenever you hear those stories, like, somebody gets something or other stuck in a, like, a jacuzzi intake pipe. It's like, how did you possibly pull that off? It's like somebody just falls down face first on the shower drain. Like, I don't know how this happened. I shouldn't have gotten a drain that is exactly like my face. Why did I get the face-shaped drain? Okay, there we go. Perfect blue spiral setup. Not empowered, but empowering would basically just double that, so both of them would have been toast in that situation. But I don't have a Beast Tamer on the team. What a tragedy. Alright, they got put to sleep by a dang blow dart. Why didn't I bring Gamp along? That would have been perfect for this. Alright. Now we got one archer over there, we got you over there, just barely surviving in a very in pseudo-frustrating manner. Okay, you shoot there. Soldier guy over there is probably not going to be too much of an issue. So we're probably about to mind control him. But, in the meantime, shoot at the wizard. This is, again, why we use multiple smaller archers, kind of adapting all over the place. Sometimes you do one attack and they get healed. Sometimes you do other attacks and maybe they're in a different spot now. Other times, in this case, there was a nice little way to get charms and shots off at the same time. Sometimes something is better, sometimes something is not better. And, as always, it's just the classic everything always depends all the time thing. Alright. One more heal on you. And one more cutty cut on you. Probably should have maybe gone for the dagger because that had a chance to disable them completely. But in the meantime, you just go ahead and go for one of these. Shame. Okay. Again, probably should not have burned some of their resources earlier, but oh well. 176, 166, do it. It's a Cashort coming in here, dropping all the space mortars, as it were. Okay. Well, you're a negotiator, so I think... Yeah, you go over here, you take the double stab, because I think, yeah, this one's already taken out a charm. Perfect. Gotta love when they do the lag stab. 74% chance of recruit on that guy, get you on our team. Maybe he'll do an empower. And maybe we'll get to see a boss one-shot with that thing. Okay. There's the double shot, and that is exactly the situation that I don't bring double shots for. Because in so many situations, they just wind up almost killing something, but not completely, and then they come back with a vengeance. Alright, you get knocked off a cliff. What the hell? Sorry, hold on. Music is being weird. There we go. Music is now fixed. Here, here, and we're back. Right. Do you have water walking still? Yeah, so that puts you on pace to get that, which means you should be able to do one of these, which can finish off that one, or can throw in these ones. Or just finish off that one. It's 100%. Do not trust the 74% and its lies. Okay. Sounds good. Get their upgraded card, and because they're currently on the water, their water walking cannot expire. So they get one more turn of that at the very least. Okay. You can Harvest Dance if you've got the means to. You know, culturally appropriate or not, I still think that they probably should have removed the sound effect if you turn on fast forward in Reborn there, because hearing that music every single time, like that you go use dances and such, just kind of makes me not want to use Swordmaster. Okay, so we got one Empower Beast over here. Nyx has a full charge. Turn's about to come up, and by any means, you do have a throw item, and you have a strengthen. So this should be pretty fun. Go get him, buddy. Go get him. Alright, so Poison Rain in this case, we got a 254 and a 140. If we had the Blue Spiral, though, 344 and 230. That would be nice. But, in the meantime, let's go ahead and hit him with one of these. And, yeah, beast units get pretty overpowered in a lot of cases. But, until then, we can at least just start throwing some arrows downrange here. See what she decides to do, which is probably just peel and run, as you do. And Josephine is reasonably tough. But, here, we got a decay going. 26%, that guy's probably running an evasion set or something. So, instead, let's go ahead and go for a Drain Heart here. Actually, this is one of the other cool things about the Terror Knight. Since a lot of their abilities, like stuff like Drain Heart, will function off of a percentage of the health bar, which means that they've got a very convenient universal can opener for anything with high health. At the same time, you've got things like their ability to steal MP or steal TP, because TP will always be 50%. MP, I don't know if it's a percentage of the health bar or if that one is a direct like int versus res check or whatever else. But either way, they've got the tools to be able to access a lot of different mechanics at the same time, which is just generally pretty useful. I mean, again, not as much as the Warlock, because the Warlock is crazy good and gets everything, but still, it's a lot. It's not zero. Anyway, she is now silenced, and okay, I meant to do the life one, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's not an issue. Then you, hopefully, get recruited here, which then means you can go sacrifice yourself to get my little squid buddy back on his feet. Another 74%. There we go. Recruit is very good or something. Right. From here, though, in a little bit of irony, we've got Heaven to Hell to go take out the Cleric. There we go. Those over there. I love how there's an entire category of finishers that's just like, this is just a really long-range kind of plink move. I don't know, I love it. Let's see, yeah, that's gonna do nothing, so don't do that. I think actually we'll be sacking our Dragoon over here to go give our Octopi a little bit more of a living chance, just in case. I know this fight's probably gonna be over by the time that they, get their turn and everything, but I don't feel like risking it. Because, yeah, I just had a few units pass away not that long ago, so I would like that not to happen again. So after all this time modding and bouncing, has Rix considered making their own game from scratch? Apparently, yes, but no. Like, that question comes up every now and then. Honestly, the answer is a little bit unclear. It sounded like they kind of just wanted to mod stuff. I keep saying over and over, like, please submit this to, like, Square or something. like they surely have to see the absolute quality in something like this. This is like a friggin' resume piece if I've ever seen one. But yeah, no, they just kind of want to do their own thing and don't seem to think that they will get the opportunity to. So if anybody here happens to have an in, let me know. I've mentioned, I've basically brought their name up to every dev that I've ever talked to. Is like, if you need somebody to talk to about balancing or whatever, I was like, please talk to this dude. It's like One Vision is friggin' magic. But yeah, who knows? Anyways, with that being said, I was hoping to just kind of speed run this whole thing to get over to Vyce, but dude, I need to get some sleep. So y'all have yourselves a good one. Thank you for stopping by here today, and yeah, we'll be continuing on with more of this when there's time, as well as doing some Unicorn Overlord at some point. Hell, I kind of want to do more Resi Outbreak too. Like, I know nobody showed up for that, but still, that game's fun. So, alright, y'all take care, thank you, and I'll see you then.